who are presently tuning in, to those who are watching this back on playback. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight's topic of Oh How Humanity Needs Jesus, that being Jesus Christ, is so you say the biblical God is a prick. Then what are you? I have found in my conversations, especially in the chat from my videos, that there are many members of the unbelieving community who have gripes against the depiction of God as he is laid out in the Holy Bible, um, and the way he does things and the way he prioritizes his priorities and how he treats humanity. But I found a lot of these arguments to be philosophically flawed and hypocritical. One of the largest, or one of the biggest of those hypocrisies is the notion of might makes right. One of the typical mind pictures and slanders of God that is often used by members of the unbelieving community would suggest since God has power or the absolute power if he exists, then just because he has that power, just because he is the creator, he has the right to do whatever he wants, and they hold that that's not fair, that's not right, and that should not be the standard of morality. God should not have the right to have the deciding say about all things simply because he is creator. Yet one of the biggest problems about that logic or about that philosophy is what is man using when you think about it, especially in
I don't hear many atheists making that argument. I mean, it's flawed.
Sir, Cocaine, please don't cut a person off in the middle of speaking. That's just basic politeness. But the biggest problem that I've had with that, or that I've noticed with that, is what is the secular humanist models of government working off of? It is a position of might makes right. Because think about it, they say that whereas there is no true objective morality in the sense of an absolute standard beyond humanity, when they come together with their subjective opinions trying to decide how to live together, what do? We occupy a tract of land, form national boundaries, seek out an agreeing consensus majority, and then when we have such a majority, we use it to come together and construct social contracts that we call laws, and then from there we impose them on the minority of our peers. And if there are dissenters, usually out of that minority, since they didn't agree with it in the first place, then because we made them laws out of our power in the majority, we can lock them up or do whatever according to the law to that dissenting minority. So de facto, secular human government runs on the principle of might make right, but that's just one hypocrisy that I found. Now, Colkin, if you wanted to add something, you can go.
No atheist makes that argument. That's the thing, you know.
That's BS.
No,
No,
it's no, no one
entire
accuses
bull crap.
God.
How can you say that?
He's referring to what would, in effect, be a very poor presentation of the problem of evil. Go ahead.
Right, Ken.
Nadia, do me a favor when you're speaking, speak slower and clearly enunciate, because sometimes your words sound ran together. It's hard to make them out.
Right, but Ken, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, sir. But what the guy with the what looks like a X-Men picture was trying to get point is that you straw manning the argument. I think that's his point. I mean,
well, if I'm straw manning the argument, let him flesh it out.
Okay. I'm just trying to. What's the word? I'm just trying to put what he's saying. I mean, I don't agree with that, but I'm just trying to put forward what he's saying.
Okay, Cokin. Well, if that is what you think, that I'm strawmanning the argument, then please clarify the argument. However, what he did say was that no, that no atheists, or did he say not too many atheists, make that argument?
Yeah, no atheist says, might makes right. No atheist ever says that.
So, are you saying that no atheist literally word for word comes out of their mouth and says that? Because I would
No,
somewhat agree with you. However, if you're
no,
saying that no atheist works off of that ideology, that
no.
is absolute foolishness.
So what the argument actually is, Ken, and then I'll actually put the actual argument is that society, as we have now, evolved from empathy and different things like that. Therefore, it has come up with a better subjective moral standard than the objective one that we apparently follow. Now, that argument's wrong, and I'll get into why in a minute. But that's the atheist argument. It is not that might makes right.
Well,
And
there's
besides, you have to prove that your God exists in the first place.
well, their argument
Mm-hmm.
is that the God of the Bible, if he really did exist, from what is
Well,
seen in the
it does
Bible,
exist, Ken. That's
first
the
of
way you
all,
want to put it.
pardon me.
You want to put it that he really does exist. You're making the claim. You're putting
Mm-hmm.
you're
Well,
putting
again,
forward.
Gary, I said at the beginning of this before we went on air, I'm not interested tonight in the formal procedures of logic and conversation and entertaining the goings back and forth upon those rules. I'm interested in real conversation, how we really talk in everyday life.
The general line of argument of the problem of evil is that the three characteristics of omniscience, omnipotence, and omnibenevolence are incompatible.
How so?
And that's not actually, well, that's what the argument actually tries to maintain or demonstrate. So, at that
Well,
point, you have, the claim is not so much that no such, or quote unquote, no God exists, as that whatever God there might be is not not characterized by the combination of those three things. Go ahead.
hey, G-Man, are you there? And I'm gonna respond
Hi,
to you, Daddy.
I'm here.
G-Man, since we've been dealing with the unbelieving community here on YouTube these last 3 years, how many times have we heard atheists criticize the God of the Bible as working from a position of might makes right?
Well, my experience with the whole might makes right thing is mainly with J.D. King. He usually makes that argument. He says that we believe that might makes right. They don't argue might makes right. They argue a subjective relative type morality, where everything is based on their opinion. And they claim that we are the ones arguing for might makes right.
Right,
Even
and
though
they,
even though I think numerous times we've shown them that that's the case, and they themselves even do believe in that. Uh, uh, that video that me and you did in New York, I posted that on my channel. I know a lot of them got mad. I think Dreadnought made a video response to it, but you did a very good job with showing them how they actually do support the idea of might makes right, and you don't got to have God involved in it to show them that. It's common sense, really. The voting system and how the country is run. The majority are the ones who determine what the laws are. Like, for example, if the majority came up with a law saying that atheism is not a religion, and the majority came up with that rule, they will be in support of it, and they will be in support of our governments enforcing that law and that rule. therefore making in that situation making right. And you pointed that out when we was in New York when we made that video. So what they're saying is that we are supporting might makes right, and they're supporting like a subjective and a relative view of morality. But in reality, they do support the idea of might makes right. You got to show them.
Right.
Jimmy, do you have an understanding of how the United States in particular runs as a government, as a body?
I hope I do. I think I did pretty good in history. Understand that we have three branches of government.
Right, and so you understand the First Amendment. You cannot. All right, if we're gonna make a law that says Christianity is illegal, you can outlaw Christianity, and the favor supported it. Like the majority of the country were to support this hypothetical law. Do you think it would pass? Do you think that would actually work?
Well, I don't know if that's a good example because you're talking about religion. Why don't you talk about the the right for gays to get married?
Yes, let's talk about Ted Cruz, Bobby Jindal, and Mike Huckabee appearing at the Religious Liberty Conference organized by Kevin Swanson. Rather notable for his advocacy of Christian Reconstructionism and biblical patriarchy, and that entailing, of course, the complete extermination of all LGBT people in
I don't think that's what
U.S., of
they were
course,
saying.
and where they can exert such influence the rest of the world as well. Go ahead.
I don't think that's what they were saying, Nadia. What they were saying is that they believe that that they don't believe that a government should be endorsing gay marriage. Now, you can agree with that, you can not agree with that. I personally don't.
Well, before you guys go
Well,
too
you don't agree with gay marriage?
Wait a minute, before
No,
you guys
no, I'm saying no, I'm saying
Hold
I
on, let G-Man
don't agree with them
Wait a minute,
with their
wait a minute. You guys
attitude
look
towards gay
smart.
marriage.
Let
Good,
G-Man speak, please.
Yeah, because you guys are going like off topic here. The majority of this
You asked me a question, I
it's
responded.
countrywide for gays to get married in this country, and those laws are enforced in this country. Does that make it right that gays have the right to get married?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so then you believe that might makes right.
No.
No, it doesn't.
I
And
believe
by the way,
I believe that
this is
equality
cracking me up
makes
about
right.
the whole thing. Guess
No.
wait a minute. Guess who gave them the right to make might makes right? It was the
The
individual
law.
people who elected these people into
No.
office.
No.
No.
Yes.
It was
Gordon
The
Clinton
original ruling.
Colorado State Legislature. The American Family Association and Brian Fisher, rather, take Republican congressmen out to Israel 168 at a time, distribute 50 million voter guides every election cycle through churches, and Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council speaks on the House of Representatives floor.
Wait a minute. Barack Obama is the one.
Take through the Council on National Policy, the
Hold on. Hold on a minute.
policy of the United States.
Barack Obama is the one who appointed these Supreme Court judges.
No.
Who put Barack Obama? Wait a minute. Hold on. Who put Barack Obama in office? This country did. The majority did.
Majority
The electoral college, actually.
The majority put
Supreme
Barack
Court
Obama
justices
in
are
office.
Republican
Our
appointees,
governmental system.
where
We voted for Barack
Republicans
Obama.
are
Wait a
fairly
minute. Hold on a
correct.
minute. Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
We all voted for Barack Obama, and Barack Obama appointed these judges in there. Now, mind you, the American people could have got together and said, you know what, we don't agree with these judges being in there, but they didn't say anything. Okay? So Barack Obama wins the election because the people put him in there. Okay? And then they start making laws that affect all of our lives. Okay? And the moment they start enforcing these laws, might makes right.
Okay, G-Man.
The majority of Republican appointees.
Okay, I hate to cut you off, G-Man. How many Supreme Court judges did Obama appoint to the Supreme Court?
I don't know how many he
G-Man,
Only
G-Man,
two.
let me ask you
Justice.
that. Obama has appointed, what is it,
He put in two
No.
Supreme Court judges.
yeah. So the Supreme Court judges are appointed by the president, and I believe they're confirmed by the Senate as slots open up. But no United States president when they take office appoints a whole set of new judges. It's as the judicial slots open up and there's an availability.
Well, that just proves my point.
president to appoint
I didn't say that all of them did. I'm sorry, that the president appointed all of them. The point is that the Senate does it, and how do we get senators? The American people vote for them, right? The
Okay, but
president, the president appoints, whether he appoints one or two of them, doesn't matter because the American people vote for him. And the argument is this: we are the ones putting these people in office. Okay, they're the ones making the decisions, and then when they're making the decisions, and these laws are being made, and these laws are being enforced, no one's going to argue against the fact that they have the right to do these things. Like, for example,
Now, G-Man, you said something there. Now, who is the we that you're referring to?
the American people.
Not the whole American people, but the majority of
Right.
the American people. And that's what I was bringing out in the beginning. It is the
That's not
majority coming together.
That's
And
democracy.
hey, nevertheless, we're working on a majority rule system.
The Senate,
Yeah, but that's not might.
Madison.
That is might makes right, because
That's not might. Might is like having a government that are using its military power to enforce its
rules. What does the majority
rules.
represent? The majority represents more number, and by extension, more electoral power. And when the majority comes together in that majority and gets their guy or their lawmakers, their delegates in, their legislators in, and they turn and make rules on behalf of the electorate who elected them, that majority electorate that elected them, that is through representative government, that is the majority imposing their will on the minority.
Okay, there seems to be a complete misunderstanding on how this country is actually run. It's not,
James?
It's not necessarily a democracy. America is a constitutional republic. We operate within the confines of the U.S. Constitution. The Supreme Court judges...
Allegedly.
Okay.
No, we do.
Yeah.
Despite on how you feel about it, that is officially how our country is run. I just want to finish my point here. I'm sorry. I've been meaning to get to this. The Supreme Court doesn't decide any laws. They decide on what laws are being passed are constitutional or not constitutional.
Right, I agree with you.
And
I didn't make that point. I think G-Man might have misspoke thinking of Congress.
I would point out.
Okay, Nutty, go ahead.
That I would point out that according to James Madison and the Federalist Papers, the Senate was constructed to protect the minority of the opulent from the leveling impulses of the masses. In other words, contrary to your notion of majoritarian rule. And in like fashion, the Supreme Court's insulation from the electoral processes. But excuse me, I'd say the Supreme Court's
who elects the senators, Nadia?
Direct election of senators was only instituted in, I think, 1919 or 1921. Now, the important part here is that the Supreme Court as well was architected in order to insulate it from electoral pressures, not to be subject to majoritarian rule. Likewise, with the lifetime appointments for it. So there we have that. Yes, majoritarianism is not the sole principle by which the United States Constitution, etc., was constructed. Go ahead.
Nadia, who is it that elects the senators?
Direct election of senators, I believe, was only instituted in 1921. They are at this point directly elected.
My question
prior to that,
is phrased in the here and now, Nadia.
Sorry, excuse me. I would say prior to that,
presently elect senators.
I'm not interested. Direct elections are carried out.
Who is it that presently elects senators?
I said with both before and after. Now there are direct elections for senators where prior to that the state legislature.
Nadia. I'm not interested in the history lesson. The question was
one sentence.
That presently elects senators. The answer is
that's all.
Eligible voters within each state.
I already said that.
That's the answer to the question, Nadia.
I already said that part.
You don't have to be long-winded and go around the whole forest to get to the beautiful
There is the
tree.
point.
Just take the short and
As
direct path, Nadia.
originally
It's a fine art.
architected.
But thank you.
As originally architected.
But
Excuse me.
I wanted to get back to something that you said.
Very briefly,
I
prior
wanted
to
to
the
get
time
back
when
to something
the
that you
senators
raised
were
earlier,
appointed by.
Nadia.
Ken, just
Excuse
let him talk.
No,
um,
I'm not.
I'm,
I'm not gonna let Nadia go on because she's going
it's
long
not
and
that
long
long to
and
go
long
on.
about a
I
short
said
answer
it
question.
surprised me to
It's a
tell me
bad
over
habit,
the
Nadia. Please,
I
it's not
would
necessary. It's not
very.
relevant to the conversation.
It is
It's
relevant to that
irrelevant.
Do you
conversation.
mind? Do you mind?
But I actually wanted to respond to something that you did say, Nadia. You what was it you said? The attributes of benevolent, omniscience, and what was it? Omnipotency uh, cannot coincide. I know that's not a direct quote, roundabout.
Um, Omnipotence, omniscience, and benevolence. I would briefly point out that the senators were appointed by the state
Nadia,
legislatures prior to
Nadia,
19.
we're not
Do
going
you
back to
mind?
that, Nadia.
The senators were appointed by the state legislatures prior to 1921. Go ahead.
Let's not waste any more time with stuff like that, please. Stay on the
And
relevant.
then let him talk.
I
Stay,
am not a he.
stay on the relevant information to the question. We do not need a whole essay to answer a question. Gosh,
Well, sometimes you do if you're answering hard questions.
the question was, how do we elect senators in this country? It wasn't how did we, it was how do we. Do is present tense. That means now. How do we? The answer is we elect them by state, the majority of the electorate, the eligible electorate who comes out and votes. They elect the senators of their state. It was that simple.
Yeah, but how does that compare to a being who can create universes with a single breath? I mean,
Well,
how
the,
does that
the,
compare to an all-powerful being?
the comparison topic was the fact that there are some unbelievers, I've experienced my number of them, who criticize Christians, as G-Man said, say that when we support what the God of the Bible has done in eras past, particularly in hard judgments in the Old Testament days, they criticize us for supporting might makes right and even slander God Himself about that. When my point again was, secular humanists use in their government might makes right all the time through a majority of people, which by extension represents a majority of power that can turn in once laws are passed the ability to impose legally your will upon the dissenting minority, up to in certain cases up to even using paramilitary or military force, which then becomes real shows of power, because according to laws that they have imposed on their peers, simply by having more of a number, more power, they are exercising as secular humanists might makes right, which makes them hypocrites.
Right, and it's been demonstrated that this country doesn't work as a full-blown democracy like that. It's a constitutional republic. We can't just decide as a majority to start invading people's homes with our military. Our own homes, I should say, domestically.
Well, as far as using the military, go down there and tell that to some people down in Missouri.
That's not the military. That's the National Guard.
Which is part of the military.
No, it's not the military.
Yes, it is.
The
My
National Guard.
brother was in the National Guard, and whereas the governor is the chief executive of the National Guards, did you know that the President of the United States can supersede the governor's authority, and he can activate in certain cases, the National Guard as members of the United States Army.
Yes, well, not the United States Army explicitly, but the National Guard is a member of the United States Armed Forces.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get back to what Nadia said. Would you make that statement for me again, Nadia, about omnibenevolence and those not being able to coexist or coincide?
The argument from evil, at least tries to, probably successfully, to argue that omnibenevolence, omnipotence, and omniscience are simultaneously incompatible. Go ahead.
Now, first of all, these are not, when somebody asks me about these, I say, first of all, these are not even biblical terms. These are terms made usually from theological oversynthesis of things that are expressed in the Bible. Like, what is omnibenevolence? The scripture that would be suggesting to say that God is all benevolent or all kind or all good, as if God is limited to one range of personality or expression.
Basically saying that he is an all-good entity.
Where does the scripture say that? I have not read that.
Oh, so you're saying that God is not all good?
No, what I'm saying is, would you please tell me where the scripture uses the
here's
phrase
the question, really. Would you describe,
good?
Ken, would you describe God as evil?
Well, I already asked you a question, and I'm waiting on an answer.
That is the answer to the question, is whether or not.
No, that is giving a question back in response to a question.
I mean, if you don't care to answer that question, then there's no way I can answer.
Well, hold on a minute. Let me see something.
Because it depends. It's depending on your beliefs as a Christian. It's word.
So what you're saying now is they're really not necessarily making these arguments from the scripture itself. Well, what they
it depends on the Christian, Ken, and you know it. There are some Christians who believe God is entirely good, and there are some Christians that don't. And if you happen to be one of the ones that don't, the question is, would you describe God as evil?
Just to interject real quick, William Lane Craig, he says that God is good, like all the time.
If God cannot commit an act of evil,
right?
Well, let's see.
Then he's omnibenevolent. If he can commit an act of evil, then is he worth worshiping? That enters like a whole different set of questions as besides whether or not he's compatible.
That would first.
So it kind of depends on what kind of Christian you are. What do you believe about God?
That would be first philosophically assume that worship is, or rather should be, conditional. Let me ask you a question. If God is who he says he is, would that make him responsible for your being alive?
The God doesn't exist to describe itself as anything.
I'll play his game, yes.
Do you like being alive?
Sure.
Then you owe him worship just for that. Because
I do not. Absolutely not.
Yes, you do, because you're enjoying something.
If you are born into... Hold on. Let me answer that with a question, because I love doing that, because I'm a dick. Let's say you're born into a household with parents who are complete and total. Hold on. Let's say you're born into you're born into a household with parents that are totally abusive to you, absolutely abusive. They are the reason why you're alive, yet they beat you every day. Do you still owe them respect?
Do you owe them respect?
Yes.
You owe them respect in the sense that they're responsible for you being here. Yes, okay. You owe them respect.
I completely disagree with you.
Do you necessarily like them? Not necessarily.
Okay, then that is the crux of our disagreement, because I don't think that I owe any respect to anybody who abuses me.
Well, no, can I pose something real quick?
Wait a minute. And I don't want to sound like a jerk, but let's consider that. You're saying that the problem you have is what they do to you and therefore conditional upon that, you're going to respect or not respect them, or feel justified in respecting them or not respecting them.
I say respect is earned as well as worship.
Yet
If I am going to be worshiping somebody, it is my decision whether or not to actually make that worship happen, if it's an action.
That if they did not come together and create you, there wouldn't be a you for you to have that argument against them.
And that's fine.
Your logic is their flaw.
But that doesn't mean I actually owe them anything if they have taken that opportunity to abuse me.
Well, okay. Let me. Can I put this in a different context a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Does a child who has been raped by their father deserve to give their father respect?
I think I've already answered the question.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing.
I said you owe them respect, a certain amount of respect in the sense that they're responsible.
But you're essentially saying the child that has been raped
entitled to like them or
give their rapist respect.
Not necessarily. I understand that viewpoint might be controversial to some.
This is the crux of the disagreement.
It's ridiculous, is what it is.
And I don't.
If you didn't self create, you owe a certain amount of respect to your creator.
No, you don't.
Right. I don't think that's true.
Because without acknowledging them, it's like not acknowledging yourself. And if you don't acknowledge yourself, then the rest of your argument falls apart.
It's not like that.
Because the argument is an argument against how you were treated. But if you were not put here by them, there wouldn't be a you to be treated one way or the other.
Doesn't matter.
So it's a procedural fallacy.
It's not.
I think you mean
it's not even
performative.
Just a different opinion.
It's a procedural fallacy.
Should be good.
Yeah, it's performative error is what he means. But so.
It still doesn't have really any consequence. So it's up to me whether or not I worship something. So if I have my reasons for not worshiping because of this entity's previous actions,
the question was
I don't have to.
The question was whether you owed it, and I said yes. You said no.
Right.
No, you don't owe anything.
Oh yeah, owing. No,
father.
I say no. Absolutely. Then we agree on what our positions are.
Why is a creation indebted to its creator?
Well, again, it goes back to the question that I asked before.
I might agree.
Do you enjoy being alive?
Ken, hold on a second.
I don't.
Well, 2 and 3 people.
Damn it! Can I get
ask questions at the same time and compound questions?
I can. Okay. So I might agree with you that a certain amount.
Pardon me. You have to wait your turn now because that was very rude.
Ken.
That was very rude.
Ken.
Joe was.
I've got a point I've been trying to say.
Hold on. Joe was asking a question.
And I was answering it.
I believe Joe was. I believe he was asking the question to me.
I'm actually trying to back you up as best I can, but I can't if you don't let me.
But I like to hear Joe's question.
All right, then you're not going to let me.
I'll just keep the question open to everybody. Why would a creation be indebted to its creator? No matter. Yeah, go ahead. The question's open for everybody. Yeah.
Cool. Now, if Ken is right to a certain extent that there is a certain amount of debt to life as a gift, and that there is a certain amount of respect that may need to be returned. However, if that creator then neglects or abuses that creation, then I consider that debt paid.
Okay,
according to who?
According to abuse of the gift. Like, because if I am given life as an autonomous being, I think I have certain rights as an autonomous being.
What is the philosophy of your answer based upon?
Human rights, unless you don't acknowledge those exist.
Human rights.
Yes.
Okay, bringing this back into the conversation about God, where we are. Do you think that man can construct a law that reaches up to God?
I think that
God doesn't exist in the first place.
I think that I have a good respect for life and living beings, and if that respect is violated by the person who is doing the creating, then I don't think that that respect needs to be returned.
First of all, God can't violate something that He created, because as the creator of that thing, whatever it may
He
be,
absolutely can.
God is is necessarily then the purpose giver to that creation of His. So anything God does within His own purpose for which He created that thing is not a violation, except maybe in the mind of the creation itself. If it be a
So
little,
I can have a child and I can beat it every day, cripple it, make its life a living hell. That's okay?
is that okay? No, and here's why not.
Oh, so you just defeated your own argument.
So the flood is immoral, is that what you're telling me?
No, I didn't. I said a creator, not a reproducer. The reason your parents cannot do whatever they please of you and feel justified doing so is because your parents created you, or recreated you, I should say, reproduced you out of loins or sperm and egg that was given. Wait a minute. So, hold on for a minute. Well, whoever that is, mute.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Wait a minute.
I can go out to a graveyard, dig up a
Wait
bunch
a
of body
minute. I'm in the
parts.
middle of speaking. Now, your parents reproduced you out of egg and sperm that was given to them based upon a trust, if you will, that was inherited from their parents, that genetically inherited. At the beginning of that chain is God creating man, saying, be fruitful and multiply. Therefore, everything that your parents created you out of, or reproduced you out of, better said, belongs to God. Therefore, the children that they produce, although they call them their children in a possessive sense, if you will, the children, just like the parents, really belong to God. So when a parent presumes to abuse and neglect their children, they're abusing and neglecting something that belongs to God.
So it's okay for
And
God to abuse and neglect you.
that is what makes it wrong. Because they are
That doesn't make sense.
That's not.
Okay, do you
That
have a
argument does not make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't. But I would take that argument then and apply it to cows.
Wait a minute. Again, we can't compound statements and then move on to other things without me getting a chance to respond. When you said it doesn't make sense, how is it that it doesn't make sense?
It's just incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Like, the way I was going to respond,
How is it
I was trying to
incomprehensible?
make a respond and explain why.
If I can say it shorter, the children don't literally belong to the parents. They just come through the parents. The parents are as if, how can I put it? The parents are like in a position more like managers over their children as opposed to being the quote-unquote owner.
So I was trying to respond.
That's to say then that managers do not have the same rights as the owners of something. The job of the manager is just to overlook and to care for a thing, but the owner of a thing has full rights over it.
All right, so you've explained that now 4 times, and I'd like to respond where I was trying to respond about 3 times ago. That
well, maybe if you would stop cutting people off, we could have a successful.
If you would stop repeating yourself, I would not have to.
Irony, Ken?
Now, because the entire thing started with you interrupting me, so I'm going to try and get this point out. That if I take your argument and apply it to cows, any animals that we use as a food source, then we don't actually have the right to kill them because they are actually God's creations. We have no right to them whatsoever. So we shouldn't be eating meat. We should all be vegans. Even then, there's an issue because we're killing plants.
According to you.
Well, I mean, according to you, that's the God creation.
No.
You're saying that if God created something, we have no right to do any sort of abusive action to it.
Because God gave authority to man. See, if you knew God, you would know this. God gave.
Okay, so your argument wasn't complete. That's what you're saying.
After the days of Noah, to eat meat.
Okay, well, if you're going to make an argument, then I suggest that you make the complete argument rather than an incomplete argument. But so if you're going to be moving the goalpost to say that we can't,
No one's moving the goalposts.
sure, well, you just said that if it's God's creation, we have no authority over it, and then you said, well, it's certain God's creations we have authority over it, and it's fine.
Authority over it. I said we have no authority to do whatever we want to.
So the line is just drawn.
However, that is understood to me, not including the things that God gave you authority to do. Come on, use your common sense. All this logical argumentation, but
common sense, and you're peddling the Bible.
Yeah, it doesn't. That doesn't add up, but that's fine.
Yes, common sense using the Bible, a source of information
that's
that was around long before you and long after you are dead.
Yeah, lots of fairy tales were around before I was alive.
It will outlive you.
So are the Eddas.
By what standard?
So Harry Potter.
I'm sorry. Ken, by what standard do you deem the Bible a valuable resource of information, or even that you would go about looking at such ancient texts as a kind of resource for your questions regarding gods, that even that gods are questions worth asking? Where does this axiology regarding your belief system come from to even ask the question if there's a God? Go ahead.
Wait a minute. How many questions was that, first of all?
One.
And could you ask, if that was
basically,
like...
how do you justify the Bible as a source of truth and not something like the Eddas?
Could you ask the last part of that?
No, I'm pre-supping.
Could you ask the last part of that again, please?
All right. So, ethics and aesthetics axiologies are needed to even guide the kinds of questions you might ask regarding reality, universe, philosophy, and all that. And so, the use of your Bible as a resource, the question of even whether there's a God, even asking that question, right, are all products of that. And so,
let me ask you a question.
Your God.
Let me ask you a question, Nadia.
That cannot sit logically prior.
You were complaining about me interrupting.
Your God cannot act, because it cannot sit logically prior to even the basis of asking that question as the basis of the axiology leading you to ask that question. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask Paul's ego to stifle itself like Archie would tell Edith.
Paul's ego is here?
Isn't that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He sort of looks like Paul's ego. Ocean.
We both have magnificent beards.
Yeah, I see.
I would have been starstruck if Paul's ego was here.
Oh, so now we're going to get into human worship. Okay. The God who created you.
It's not human worship.
I'm trying to tune up my voice. I hope I'm not sounding over masculine.
Nadia.
Sure.
You're questioning now the existence of God. It sounds like, why should you posit God as being real?
I'm not questioning the existence of God. I am demonstrating rather richly there can be no such things as gods.
No, you're not demonstrating. You're trying to, and you're failing miserably.
I already have. You can't appeal to any kind of deity as a source of axiology when an axiology absent of God is required to even ask the question of whether there is a God. Go ahead.
Nadia, where in life have you ever seen life come from non-life?
Oh my God.
Frankly, the question of where life comes from, again, rests on an axiology that I do not hold. That answer to the question, the meaningfulness of the question, the importance of it all,
the question
is something foreign to my worldview, and so my worldview is immune to the criticism that it doesn't respond to that question because the axiology you're imposing is foreign.
You're full of cow.
It's an external critique.
You're full of cow. You're deliberately evading the question, just as expected, because you have no
To be fair, you answered her question with a question that didn't have anything to do with her question. So it's you've not only performed your pet peeve that you accused me of doing earlier, but you asked a question that didn't have anything to do with
Okay,
her
no,
question about
no,
morality.
Hey, we
Yes,
can't expect Ken not to be a
I'm
hypocrite,
sorry.
okay? He is a Christian.
I'm speaking to Nadia. So how can
No,
I
I'm
say
pointing
this
out the issue with
politely?
the way you did that.
You hypocrites, you generation of
Yours is
vipers,
so
you go against
spoken.
the words of your own Christ. Go ahead.
Now, Nadia, I'm gonna ask you again. Where in real life have you ever seen life come from non-life?
I've never even bothered looking for such a thing, because it's not an important question,
Oh,
and
yes,
the
it is.
theology that would deem as such is
Here
poor
is
to my
why
worldview,
it is an
and
important question.
therefore, I'm sorry.
And please stop with all that fake female neck rolling and look like eye rolling.
Oh, shit. You asshole, Ken.
Uh, hey,
Stop it, please.
fake or not,
That's
it's,
annoying. You're not even ghetto, but you're trying to act good.
I'm not
You,
ghetto.
you, you know,
What the hell are you
you
talking
were
about?
talking about being disrespectful earlier, man. I mean, that was straight up disrespectful right there.
Disrespectful about it. You're having a conversation with somebody and they're facing you, neck rolling and eye rolling. I mean, come on.
Hey,
How the hell do you see that I roll?
let's understand something real quick. The
I wasn't
Bible
eyeballing
is misogynist.
Oh, absolutely, yes, and also anti-trans, as well as homophobic too. This
Right.
No,
this kind
homophobic. It's not
moral,
homophobic. Not afraid of homosexuals. No, it's outlawing
Romans
homosexual.
chapter 1, verse 26, 27.
Homosexuality is wrong.
First Timothy
A
chapter 1,
man
verse
does
10.
not belong
Revelation
with
21,
a
verse
man,
8.
and a woman does
First
not
Corinthians chapter 6, verse
belong with
9.
a woman. If it was something that was right, then
Yeah,
it was right for
that's
all of us to do it. And if every human being was a homosexual, let's test your model. If it was right again, then it would be right for everybody to do it. That's my position. Now let's carry that all the way out.
So let's get a bit
Let's say
into
neutrality.
let's say everybody was homosexual, but yet now with that we couple that and add into the model that we take off the table every and all artificial means of garnering children or producing children, such as artificial insemination, sperm banks, going to your friends of the other sex and getting the necessary resources from them to produce it. No, let's leave everything.
Well,
Hey!
Hey, guys.
That's all right.
There are over 100 species of mammals where homosexuality has been documented.
Let's
This
leave
is a fact.
continuing the human race left to the homosexual model of sexuality. The whole human race would die out in one generation. Why? Because homosexuals cannot reproduce with one another. Therefore, functionally, it is revealed as being wrong, vain, something that is produced out of the imagination.
That is completely wrong.
There
are over 100 species of mammals that have been documented to display homosexual behavior.
Greater creation.
Ken, can you not cut him off?
Ken,
I didn't cut you off because I was already in the midst of speaking. So how am I cutting you off?
No, I'm not saying you cut me off. You cut off Calhoun off.
May I respond?
Cut off who?
May I?
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
This is very simple.
Your logic is ridiculous.
The people
you're
that
setting
are
up this
against
radical-
homosexuality are like so much more likely to be just in the closet homosexual. So I think that you're really just trying to tell us something here, Ken. Are you trying to tell us that you're a little bit attracted to one of us?
Oh God!
I dare respond.
Well,
as perhaps more ardent terms.
I would. There it is, John. No, I don't like men. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings this way, but that love you have for me will have to go on unrequited, my friend.
I would point out that what you have demonstrated there, Ken, is the scriptural basis of the homophobia or
Nature
being against
itself, Nadia, nature
homosexuals,
itself
as well.
tells you
And
a man does
excuse
not
me,
belong with a
I
man, and
had
a woman does
a
not belong with a woman.
mind,
The reason we have
and that
sexual
morality
organs is to reproduce.
I
That is their
would
function. We may use them for other things and associate them with these notions, these ideas of romance, but functionally, we have sexual parts to reproduce. Can a man and a man come together and reproduce through that model? No. Can a woman and a woman come together and reproduce through
nature.
that model? No.
Nature is red and
So
toothy claw.
you're
Yet
speaking
the
a
state of
deviation.
nature
You're speaking a deviation.
applies.
Deviation
Nature. I'm sorry.
from
May I?
deviate.
Nature is
Yes,
a terrible
nature,
thing. It is red and toothy claw,
nature has.
and the Lord of the Flies and all that. A little bit better here is I'll raise you anti-natalism, that the
Oh,
reproduction is itself an
oh,
immoral act.
speak with words that are
David
poor
Benatar here is
eons
a
can understand, Nadia.
David Benatar here is a South African philosopher who
Oh, so
text here
now
demonstrating the
you
immorality of
the
reproduction.
doctrine of God is invalid, but you're going to esteem the philosophy of mortal men. I don't care what doctorate anybody has in front of their name. It is things that they have learned from their own personal observations, and moreover, the ideas of other men influencing those observations over time.
And it's
And your
infinitely
notions of
better than a
Christianity differ in
3,000-year-old
no
fairy
respects
tale.
A
at your
3,000-year-old fairy tale.
apprehension of
What proof do you have that Scripture is a fairy tale? You like to go around
The
with
fact that it's
Well, no,
that
it's blood.
it's said in
Power
parts
of
magic,
battle.
supernatural
Adam and
rituals,
Eve.
and it has a lesson.
Wait
I
a minute.
feel like I'm
The
listening.
Wait a
the
minute.
chiasm
Ken,
and
let me give you a break.
chiasm did take a structure,
Let me give you a break.
the architecture around Psalms 22,
Ken,
and
Ken,
genre analysis determining that it is mythological accounting that the entire Gospels consist of, that demonstrates a rather falsehood
You're
of
speaking
the
of
existence
falsehoods
of
and
Christ.
contradictions. You're Nadia, and I don't really
I
want to
didn't
make
bother
an
with
ad hominem,
contradictions.
but just
I'm
stating a
sorry.
fact. You are a man masquerading as a woman. And you think that's all right and want
I
the
don't
whole rest of the world to accept that as being all right.
no,
What does it matter to
You're
you,
calling
Ken?
I don't need a
you
label. I need a question of my body. You can call me a man all you want.
I'm just speaking to the
The
matter
fact
of
of the
Right, no,
matter
why does it matter?
of
No,
her
I'm
race.
serious. Why
the
does it
fact of the matter
matter?
is
Why
the
does it matter?
Gospels were
Why
constructed
does it matter?
through a process called
Why
euhemerization,
does it matter?
and Jesus Christ is a mythological
A
figure,
woman is a woman
not
and
a
a man is a
historical
man.
person.
Nadia was born a man. He is a man. For all we know, his real name might be Nathaniel.
No,
Oh my God.
My
no. I
real
mean,
name
why do you have to
is
push
the Social Security
your ideology
Administration.
onto other people like all the
Social Security
time?
Administration.
Anything? Are you denying
The
the
New
fact
York
that
and
he was born a man?
California DMVs,
Are you
the
denying the
Florida
fact
Bureau of
that Nadia was born a
Biostatistics,
man? I'm
and
not
all
pushing
that
anything.
is
That has
Nadia
nothing to
Yvette
do with
Chambers.
religion. That's just a pure fact. He was born a man.
Well,
It
okay,
doesn't
but
matter if
you
he was
wanting to
born
be
a
a
man.
dick
He's a
right now,
woman.
I'm not
Relevant
telling you you
authorities
can't be a dick.
regarding what my name
Let me
is
ask you something, John. If you went
saying
in the bathroom and decided to put on a wig and makeup and took a pair of scissors hypothetically and cut off your wing,
I'm not wearing any
all
makeup.
right? No, we will put you in a movie.
Why do you think that it's just
My
such
hair
an
is not a
easy
wig.
decision to make?
We were
And
watching
by
Ken
extension
Jones
of
here
believing that
devolve
you
with
are
a
a
homosexual.
danger to yourself, we would conclude that you're probably a danger
Alright.
to the
It's
rest of
actually called,
society.
Talking about now.
it's actually called transphobia or transmisogyny.
Well, what are
But
we talking about here
anyway.
now? Did this turn into an anti-gay hangout, or are we talking about?
It-
No, it's turned
It's
into an
anti-gay,
anti-transsexual. I'm not gay, I'm transsexual.
Nadia brought up that the scripture is homophobic and some other accusation she made against
And it clearly is.
in a
Yeah,
process.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13.
Well,
Leviticus chapter
no,
18, verse
no,
22.
Like, Ken, go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 1. Deuteronomy 22, verse 5.
Everybody
1
talk at
Corinthians 6,
once.
9.
Okay, Nadia, I mean,
homophobic would mean.
sorry. Yeah, Ken, what were you saying?
The term homophobic would mean homosexual fearing. The scripture is not afraid of homosexuals at all.
I'm not afraid of homosexuals.
It is homosexuality forbidding, outlawing, because it's wrong. It is not in keeping with the Creator's purpose for His creation and its design.
But first, we still don't know if God exists.
Which is why I asked Nadia the question: have you ever seen life come from non-life?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
It doesn't.
I have.
Because if you've never seen life come from
Can
non-life,
I give you a break, Ken?
the notion that life can come from non-life
Hey, Ken, can I give you a break?
is a philosophical falsehood.
Ken, can I give you a break, Ken?
Well, I just wanted to clear
Ken, I can answer that for you if you want me to, about the life from non-life thing.
I can also
Why it
resist.
doesn't necessarily apply.
Well, I'll go ahead and answer this round, and then G-Man, you can say whatever.
My answer is that as far as, because we're talking about abiogenesis basically, and the scientific consensus on abiogenesis is that there is no knowledge of how life began. That God did it doesn't mean that God didn't do it. It just means that it's a question mark, and until it can be demonstrated that God is the cause or that God isn't the cause, it's really not worth anything to bring it into the argument.
I don't have to demonstrate a thing, and here's why. The only thing that
Yes,
we've
you
ever
do.
seen,
You're making a claim, and you have to prove it.
the only thing that we've ever seen is life comes from life before it. So
Well,
for you
I
to posit, or for
think
anyone to
that
posit
That is
that
what
life
we have
comes
observed.
from
Yes.
non-life, it is you who have the burden of proof to show that it's possible, not us.
It's
I can.
Guys, let me
I
answer.
can.
Hold on.
Okay, well, go ahead.
You deserve a gold medal for all the mental gymnastics you're doing here.
Well, because
No,
it
oh my
is mental.
goodness.
I'm still on the floor, baby. You're the one up flying with the pie in the sky and
I
your
can-
fairy
No,
tale.
I'm fairly certain.
Guys, I want to address what you're
Whoa.
saying right now. Hold on, you guys.
I've been quiet.
On a star.
I'm trying to say something, which is an answer to. I'm trying to answer Ken, because I need to address the atheists of the room now as well, because the mental gymnastics comment is something I take issue with, because it takes just as much mental gymnastics to say I know God didn't do it as it does to say I know God did it. So if it is intellectually honest to say there's a question mark there, it is intellectually dishonest to say you know either way unless you can demonstrate it. That being said,
I can.
Well,
It
we know
is-
the story of Genesis is false.
and you can say the story of Genesis is false all you want to for completely different reasons that have nothing to do with whether or not God started life. And it has to do with the moon coming after.
I assume that Ken assumes that it's the Christian God that created life through
Christian God is not incompatible with science.
Ken, can I say something real quick? Ken, I've been quiet for like the better part of 45 minutes. Can I say something, Ken?
Yeah, go for it. I've made my point.
Let
So
Ocean finish his point. And
no,
then-
I've made it. As I've said that basically, yes, you do have to demonstrate in order to say that the other side is wrong. Like, if you say life cannot come from non-life, you need to be able to demonstrate that, because the naturalist assumption is it probably can, but we haven't been able to demonstrate it. The Christian assumption is it came from God, and that both of which are assumptions. But the fact of the matter is that nobody knows and nobody can demonstrate where life came from. So to make an argument in favor of God on the basis that God is the initiator of all life isn't an argument that's worth making, because you can't demonstrate it. And your response to say, I don't have to demonstrate anything, is very telling of your position. And that's my point.
I could
All right.
Demonstrate that living organic matter had to have
No, Nadia.
arose
Nadia,
from.
I said
Sorry.
G-Man could go after.
Yeah. So Calhoun, you're basically saying that we got to prove that God exists first. I've been on YouTube for the better
Yes,
part
you
of
have.
3 years here now, and I've been doing nothing but giving evidence for the existence of God. And all the atheists do, and you've heard me say this before, is suppress this truth. Okay, you won't even look at it. You won't even deal with it. What you keep doing is parroting and
Okay, G-Man. Okay,
let me
show
finish.
me proof of God.
Calhoun, let me finish, Calhoun. Okay, and then you'll get to talk. Okay.
I'll have that conversation.
Parroting what you heard other popular atheists say, like Christopher Hitchens and that book, The God Delusion, God No, from Penn Jillette, and some of these other books. You're not saying.
I haven't read those books yet. I plan to.
Let me finish. However, I'm pretty sure you have not actually looked at the evidence that Christians has been presenting for the existence of God, and if you haven't, you are then suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, making Romans chapter 1 look very valid right now, and I can prove it to you.
Okay, G-Man.
I can prove it to you.
I have watched several atheist versus Christian debates on this subject, and none of them has the Christian ever provided any evidence. Example:
Okay, so,
the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate.
Wait a minute. Forget
Was
Ken
the Bible
Ham
talked
and Bill
about?
Nye. Forget Ken Ham and Bill Nye. How about G-Man versus J.D. Kane, G-Man versus Alex Biden, and G-Man versus some of these other people here? How about we just look at that?
Why would I care
Here's the
what
thing.
you
So,
say
let me
when the most
hold on.
noted, when the biggest
Wait a minute, Calhoun.
Christian apologetic out there can't even argue his own case?
Calhoun.
I mean, this guy literally runs a Bible museum.
Okay, Calhoun. Okay, according to you, no evidence has ever been presented to for the existence of God. Can you tell me how many times you've disproved with factual information answered prayer? How many times have you done it?
What do you mean answered prayer?
Answered prayer argument. How many times have you disproved it?
What what are you talking about? The answered prayer?
I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about no other atheists on YouTube. How many times have you disproven the answered prayer argument?
And what is the answered prayer argument?
You don't know it. How many times have you disproven? And by the way, that's my argument that I use. Okay. How many times have you disproven? Wait a minute.
Remind me what the answered prayer argument is, so I can give you an answer.
How many times have you been in the room with Cy Tim Bruniquet? Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. How many times have you been in the room with Cy Tim Bruniquet, or Matthew 4:19, or the Bible Thumping Wiener, or Matt Slick, or Brother Arcane, and disproven the presuppositional argument to their face? How many times have you done it?
I have seen several hangouts with. I've seen several debates with Saiton and Bruggencate, and one or two with Matt Slick, and their positions are based on fallacies.
Okay, so how many times? How about we get to the question I just asked you? How many times have you actually disproven?
G-Man, that's unreasonable. No.
It's not unreasonable.
It is unreasonable.
It's absolutely unreasonable to say he interact with these people. He may not have had the opportunity. I don't think he has had the opportunity.
Oh, stop saving him real quick here, okay? He just said that the book of Genesis wasn't true. We know that is false. And he claims that we got to prove that God exists. All Christians do on YouTube, and let me finish, please, is present evidence for the existence of God. I've never once, a day on this planet, seen an atheist make, number one, a legitimate argument that being an atheist, that having a legitimate argument for being an atheist. That's number one. And then number two, I've never seen them prove that there is no God. Of course, they run to that argument that you can't prove a negative garbage, and even atheists are saying that you can prove.
Okay, G-Man?
I can, and witness as I do so. In order for...
Okay.
Hey, Ken, let her talk. I was interested in what she had to say.
G-Man was still in the middle of speaking.
Yeah, so my point is this.
G-Man
no atheist in this room can sit in here and say that no evidence has ever been presented to them without first showing me proof that they are not suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, which you guys do on a daily basis, and it's easily proven.
What do you mean proof that I'm not suppressing the truth? in unrighteousness. That's
What it means is you're not listening to it. You're not taking it into consideration. You haven't really thought about it. You claim to read the Bible, and then when we start talking about the Bible, you don't know facts. You don't know certain basic things
You,
that even a baby in Christ would know.
you
Hold
are
on.
suppressing the truth of the fact that
Let me ask how to correctly pronounce your name. Is it Kokuhun or how?
It's Callahan.
That's Callahan?
My name is properly pronounced Kulahoon, but that doesn't roll off the tongue like Callahan can.
you.
All right, so
May
I'll go with Kulahun.
It's Callahan. Callahan.
May I?
Well, maybe you should change it on the screen, Kulahun. Now,
It's whatever.
but if
May I?
you want to be called Callahan, let's go with Callahan. Hold on, Nadia, because you talked quite a bit already. Callahan, can you answer for me? When have you ever, in everyday life, seen life come from non-life?
When have you ever seen life come from non-life? Because the answer is irrelevant.
I have.
The question is
But I will
irrelevant.
admit that I haven't. I'll tell you what I have seen.
Didn't I already
Everything that I have
Yeah,
seen
Ocean already showed you why that question is wrong.
has already been a model. Everything I've ever seen in life, as far as life, material life anyway, life native to this world.
Ken, I already showed this argument before. I don't know why you're making
comes from life before it. That's the only thing we as humans
Ken,
have ever seen.
You've already asked this question. We've already showed you why it's irrelevant.
And
I don't believe that it's irrelevant.
Continuing to make the argument doesn't matter unless you can show that it's relevant. Why is it relevant?
May I?
Number one, I'm the host of this. Number one, and number two, I'm the one asking the question.
Well, why is the question relevant? Because I already showed you why.
Intelligent design. That's why. If I can get to the point, intelligent design. Anything else?
Okay. Oh, intelligent design. Okay.
Well, what I wanted to flesh out was not necessarily intelligent design, but the fact that if the only thing we've ever seen as human beings is that life comes from life before it, then for somebody to present the notion
let me explain to you why that question does not matter.
I am speaking. For someone to present the notion that life comes from non-life is to assert philosophical dishonesty because it goes against the only thing you ever have seen.
Ken, you are arguing
now the question becomes, where did such a contradictory assertion come from? And what is the philosophical notion or reasoning or justification behind asserting such an unseen contradiction?
It's not asserting; it's an assumption. And
it is an assumption.
If you ever studied abiogenesis,
in fact, in many of our schools,
there's not much to study
in America, this unseen assertion is being taught by many as a fact.
May I?
It's the best explanation for. Wait a minute. What do you mean it's taught as a fact?
How is something that is unseen the best explanation? It is only an acceptable explanation.
I've never seen God create the universe.
Outlaw God.
May I?
What do you mean outlaw God?
Outlaw is a bad term. It is only reasonable to those who have first ruled out God from the equation.
May I?
That's what naturalism does, yes. Is it rules
Well,
out
that's Occam's razor. You start with the fewest assumptions possible.
Even though there's nothing that can show nature can come from itself.
May I?
In the sense of initial genesis.
Okay, everybody, shut up. Nadia's talking.
Nadia has been trying to speak for some time now.
Yeah.
Nadia has already spoken for about 37 minutes.
It is a fact. I'm sorry.
I'm not willing to speak.
It is a fact there are no such things as gods. And you, in fact, are suppressing the truth of the fact there is no gods.
No, you don't want that.
Your intellectual dishonesty is such.
You don't want that.
And you have to appeal to a godless axiology to even posit
that you would not justify being
such
a
a
man
thing as a source of
thrusting
its
Ken.
in your body
kind of
to be
axiology
the
in
form of a woman.
on pain of circularity
You want the
and
confusion.
its
You want to assert the
apprehension.
confusion.
You, I'm sorry.
Hey Ken, why don't you give me mind control, man? Ken.
You want to assert the confusion about there being a God so you can live in your confusion of being a man pretending to be a woman and put the rest
She's
of the
not
world to join.
confused.
Hey,
She's not confused.
You saying some of you guys would say, well, that's her personal right, that's her personal decision. Yet it's not something he's keeping personally to himself. How many hangouts has Nadia hosted saying blaming Christians for her not being able to spread out and live as a woman, and Christianity and conservatism is responsible for her not having a job. She wants to impose her plain pretend on the rest of the free world.
She's not playing pretend, and she's not imposing it on you.
Yeah, she is.
You're imposing your beliefs onto her.
Ken, I'm going to say real quick.
She's trying to publicize it.
Ken, I need you to listen to me. That I'm going to say real quick that say what you want about Nadia, but please don't misgender her. That's not really a very polite thing to do.
What do you mean misgender her?
I've made my statement.
Misgender her? She's not a her. She's a him. She was born
as I said, please
I'm begging for 1 minute. I'm begging for 1 minute. I would like to ask Ocean a question. I'm just begging. I'm just begging to ask this question. Ocean, could you unmute Ocean?
Sure, what's up?
Did you just tell my best friend on the entire planet not to misgender Nadia?
That's what he did.
Oh, okay, let me ask you a question. And Mr. Ken, if I'm inappropriate right now, you please mute me or just tell me to stop, all right? Does Nadia have a vagina or a penis?
I think that's inappropriate to ask, and it doesn't necessarily matter to the gender.
Does Nadia have a vagina?
Gender has nothing to do with biology.
Wait a minute. It has nothing to do with biology.
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with genitalia. It has a lot to do with
biology. Does
biology.
Nadia have a penis or a vagina? Which one?
It doesn't have anything to do with her gender.
I don't see how that's relevant.
The deformities of my genitalia are not determinative of gender.
I only asked for 1 minute. I'm almost done. The reason why I'm asking you that is because that's how we usually determine whether or not somebody's a man or a woman. Now, here's the thing, Ocean. If you can't...
Yeah,
that's how special assignment
I'm almost done. Okay? If you don't think that is important to look at a genitalia to determine whether or not somebody's a man or a woman, if you don't think that's important, Mr. Ken is not the one with the problem, Ocean. It's you. All right?
No.
It's important to ask the person if they're what gender they are.
I think it's in poor taste to ask the flesh or genitalia in order to prove your
by
gender.
man's rules. I believe
The deformities.
unlike you guys,
Yeah, you're going by the rules of a 3,000-year-old Bronze Age savage.
I believe in absolute morality. You guys are the ones who believe in subjective
Oh,
morality.
you believe in absolute morality? Okay, let me give you an example of morality in the Bible.
I don't have to go by what Nadia says. He feels like what he thinks he is. I go by what is written on his birth certificate, which in the past Nadia has admitted said male.
Okay.
That's really rude.
Here's some morality from the Bible. Exodus 21 and Leviticus 25. Both promote slavery.
Hey, if you guys want to argue for a person
I think that's
as objectively true, their subjective reality, then you should have no problem with accepting the Christian God as truth.
Hear ye. From now on, G-Man and Ken are both Muslims. That's it. You're both Muslims now. How does that feel?
And
okay. God was engineer. God was engineer. It doesn't bother me.
No, that's like saying you're a pretty Julia Roberts types with long, voluptuous red hair, fine boobies, and a size 2 waist.
Wait a minute. So I like to use the scientific method here for a moment here to determine whether somebody is a man or a woman. I use the scientific method here. It's the best way to determine truth according to the atheist community.
Oh, okay. Nadia, are you a woman?
First, Nadia, I want to ask you a great question, Nadia, and I don't want to ask Ocean.
Sure. Ask away.
Appropriate. I asked you this before. Do you have a male private part or a woman's private part?
G-Man, it can say penis.
Unfortunately,
It's okay.
Do it,
there
G-Man.
is-
I did it last time and it
Yeah,
took.
you already
It's a
did it.
medical. It's a medical
I
term.
can answer. Unfortunately, the deformities of my genitalia are not fully corrected, and the penis is still present while testicles are absent. Go ahead.
Wait a minute, hold on. Did you just say that your penis is visible, but your testicles aren't?
Yes, that's what she said.
Okay.
My
like you got
testicles have been removed.
It sounds like you got neutered.
Well, hey, wait,
You
G-Man.
can call it that. And in the future, I may very well have vaginoplasty to, in effect, surgically correct what's now a penis. Go ahead.
G-Man, I mean, come on, have some sort of respect.
No, wait. Let G-Man respond to that. I was happy to talk about this kind of stuff.
Godless, hold on. You came in here in the middle of this. You don't know all this
Listen.
Wait a minute, Mr. Ken, let me defend myself here real quick. Positively Godless, you just came in here, so you don't know how all this started.
It doesn't matter. It just you need to be respectful. You need to be respectful to her.
Well, I'm trying to explain to you what happened here.
You mean to him, Scott?
Her.
Okay.
Ken.
Positively
Her.
Godless, all right? Positively Godless. Look, Mr. Ken and Nadia was going back and forth about Nadia's gender. Ocean made a statement saying that Mr. Ken was what was it? Being intellectually dishonest about
No, I wasn't
Nadia's.
saying he was being intellectually dishonest. I said that he should not misgender somebody. That was the statement that I made. As an absolute fact, he should not misgender somebody.
Okay, thank you. And then I said to Ocean, I asked Ocean to unmute, and I said, Ocean, does Nadia have a penis or vagina? Okay, and then he said that.
Which, honestly, my response should be talk to Nadia about this subject.
Let me finish here. Let me finish. Okay. So I asked that question, and him and I believe Godless Engineer was saying that was a totally inappropriate question. These are the same people that argue the scientific method over and over and over and over here on YouTube, saying that something to be testable and repeatable, and using science all the time. So I simply played their game and asked them, well,
You're just being a jerk.
And
All right, G-Man, I feel like I need to say my piece so I'm not misrepresenting.
Talk about moving the
Wait a
goalpost.
minute, hold on a minute.
G-Man?
I agree with Ken in the sense that Nadia is a man, but later on, I don't want nobody arguing with me with the scientific method when it comes to God, when you guys can't even do that with human beings that you can see with your own eyes. That was the whole point of me bringing that up.
Man.
It ain't no straw man.
Yes,
you guys
it's a straw
argue
man.
the
So,
scientific method
anyway,
all the time.
I want to clarify what my position was. Because when you asked me whether or not she has a penis or a vagina,
You said it was inappropriate.
I did say it was an inappropriate question, but I also said that sex has nothing to do with gender, and that that's a clarification that needs to be made. Yes. That's something that... According to the science.
No. According to the science, Nadia is a man.
That's something that you need to educate yourself on, because that is a subject that a lot of research has been done on recently, and that Nadia is happy to educate you on.
We are not bound to acknowledging Nadia's subjective reality.
So what is this, a beat up on Nadia moment right now? Because I think that's a little unfair.
There you go, Scott. Poor pitiful me again.
It is not subjective that the correction for my deformities until now has been denied.
What do you mean your deformities? You had this done to yourself. What do you mean deformities?
The deformities could be the malformation of my genitalia. Go ahead.
Malformation?
Hey Ken, let me explain this to you very simply. If you put a brain inside of a duck, is that still a duck, or is it a human?
Let Nadia defend herself.
Hey, listening to you
She's
guys.
very good on this subject.
You guys are going to be a 10 years thing when people are walking around here, or if people are walking around here saying, "Oh, I'm not really human. This is a mistake. My body is betraying me. My body is lying me. I'm really a snake."
I'm
really uncomfortable with this whole Nadia bashing right now. I think that's
I'm getting off of that. I like to hear J.D. Kane's opinion about this.
Yeah, let's get back to bashing.
I make the humble request to please respect her gender for the remainder of this conversation.
I feel like it's pretty.
They're not.
I'm not going to acknowledge
They're not going to, because they don't recognize her gender. They don't see. They don't have the. Apparently, with the Bible, it doesn't come common decency to refer to someone's sexual identity correctly.
No, they don't recognize her freedom. The freedom to express for who she is, just as the same freedom as G-Man
Hey.
and Ken Jones can express who they are.
Hey! She can express whatever she wants, but I'm not gonna.
No, apparently she can't, Ken. You're not letting her.
You're not.
All right, Ken. If you respect that she can express however she wants, can you at least respect that by?
I'm not going to address her as a female.
Okay.
You've been calling her she.
did.
You've been calling her she.
Because
That's what bugs me.
Because he and she has made her lies spill over.
No, you've been addressing her, Ken, as she. I've been in this hangout for 2 minutes.
I actually have been addressing her as both, back and forth.
Then that's rude.
Because they have.
All right. Then from now on, we should address Ken back and forth as both, just to equalize the levels.
What? Big and small?
Everything is equivalent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Man,
okay.
She is a real character.
This is some of the hypocrisy that I was talking about.
It's not hypocrisy. It's not hypocrisy.
Actually, all of it.
It's certainly hypocrisy.
I'm just going to say, if it doesn't matter to you to keep
hilarious about this.
Okay, Ken.
That's one of the
it's not going to matter to us.
validating Romans chapter 1, and you don't even know it.
Okay, Ken.
There's no validating Romans chapter 1.
Yes, you are validating. You have no idea. You don't want me to read it. Because I'll show you. You're being
Ken,
Hi, Jack. Hi, Jack Coons.
You're ready to kill transgendered or homosexual people.
Can I just speak for a quick moment here?
I don't want to kill transgender people.
Okay, at the start of this.
Quit throwing out the Bible, please.
At the start of this conversation.
Transgender people. I love transgender people. I want them to repent.
I'm going to bring up the Bible.
There's nothing to repent.
Okay,
you're not ready to kill somebody. Don't bring up the Bible.
Okay, at the very start of this hangout, Ken Jones asked for some human decency, some politeness, and I think that's a fair thing to ask for.
Well, Calhoun,
whatever we wish to use. If I want to be referred to as a toaster, I want to be a toaster.
In this room, Nadia, going back to the point about the existence of God, I believe, and positively godless, I would throw you in this, but you wasn't here when this conversation came up. So
Joe requested to speak a while ago.
But Calhoun, Joe, and Nadia, you are all suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. You ran from the topic.
You're suppressing me right now, G-Man.
I am not suppressing the truth. There is no truth.
Ran from the topic. You don't want to deal with that.
Okay, I'm not rage quitting. I am just, there's too much chaos in this room for me to handle. I'm out.
Scotty, put your big boy pants on. This is part of life, man.
No, there's too much talking. No one can have a conversation. Can? You know that.
All right. I'll more strictly moderate now.
Yeah, someone asked JD Kane a question 5 minutes ago.
All right, I'm gonna ask everybody to please mute so JD can speak his piece. JD, if you would unmute. JD.
What was the question? He asked a good question.
This is the question, JD. JD, I wanted to know how you felt about the Nadia situation. Do you believe that Nadia is a man, or do you believe that Nadia is a woman? That's what I asked you earlier.
I don't think it matters. If she first be referred to, if it makes her happy referred to as a woman, then refer to her as a woman. That's kind of the end of it for me.
Yeah, and to answer Teacher the Bible's question,
Wait a minute. I'll have to follow up on that real quick if you don't mind if I put the dollar.
No, it's fine.
He said it doesn't matter. It matters what makes her happy and whatnot, right? And now, JD, this is my final question, and I'm going to mute. Using the scientific method, is Nadia a man or is Nadia a woman?
Well, the scientific method can't help you here. It's not. It's a matter of definition, not a matter of evidence.
It has to do with something that's testable and something that is repeatable. If you're going to say that Nadia is a female, then you have to show me a model on how I can use science to come to the conclusion that Nadia is a female and not a male, because science
has more to do with brain chemistry.
Male.
Yeah. G-Man, do you have any understanding of what gender identity disorder is?
I have an understanding of what the science.
Okay, dysphoria.
You guys claim you guys live by on a regular basis.
Okay, that didn't answer my question.
Our opinion is on this.
Do you know gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder? Those are the
I would like to
same
hear
thing.
what J.D. Kane's opinion about this is, and then I'll answer the question.
This
Yeah,
disorder has been removed from the definition. It's gender dysphoria.
Oh, dysphoria? All right, thank you.
So,
And I
JD,
just wanted to address Jack Coon's comment. He says, "I'm taking it that Scott, you've never been in JD Kane's Talking Shit Tuesdays." I just kind of want to laugh at.
yeah, so JD don't got to answer the question now because the topic changed. So JD, I'm
Well,
gonna get to this, man.
well, I want to address the question. I've apparently, Jack, you've never seen the debate between
Well,
JD
that's
Kane
not
and
the
Matt Slick.
topic at hand. You're changing the topic.
I'm just addressing on the side chat.
Well,
I'm sorry,
do that in the
Chi-Ming.
side chat. I'm asking you a question publicly. This is important. JD Kane,
Really important.
use the scientific method to prove that Nadia is a female, please.
Well, again, it's not a matter of science; it's a matter of definition. It depends on what you mean when you say someone is male or female.
Okay. Does Nadia have a female genitalia, or does Nadia have male genitalia?
Well, that doesn't help you because there are people who are born with both, and we can't say that they're both male and female, can we? We gotta somehow decide. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm done with my question asking here. Apparently, genitalia has nothing to do with whether or not somebody's a male or a female.
I just said if you're born with both, you wouldn't do that.
There's a difference between your biological sex and your gender identity. There's a difference.
I shall respond on my
Wait a
channel.
minute, pardon me. I'm gonna ask JD to please stop showing what may be I don't know, copyrighted content.
It's
Minecraft. It's
They
a
don't-
video game.
They don't care.
Ken,
I'll just go ahead and tell you they don't care.
it's Minecraft.
They're
Yeah,
happy to have it.
I understand that, but I do not want that shown on the screen.
This is not copyrighted content. There are no boobies coming up. You've got nothing to worry about.
I'm somebody who deals with this issue occasionally, and I'll tell you that you're not going to get in any trouble at all.
Zombie could be a problem. Get away from me.
JD, you sound like Pillbox right now.
AI?
Go ahead, Nadia. Sorry.
The appropriate repository for things such as sex and gender rests in neuroscience and the brain. And the reason, of course, is because things like severing limbs and all that does not detract from what you regard as personal identity. This kind of consideration traces gender and such back, to gender things like a brain in a vat as being male or female and such. This kind of neuroscientific analysis of gender is verifiable by such things as MRIs and CAT scans. And I've had those relating to convulsions related to ketoacidosis. And in those course of those, they have analyzed my brain to verify that I am indeed transsexual. Go ahead.
Nadia, do you? I've got a question to ask about your use of the word transsexual. I've usually heard that transgender is more appropriate. Do you prefer transsexual, or can you qualify that?
Yes, transsexualism is, in some respects, more specific than transgender. Transgender would apply to things like beyond non-binary, also things relating to solely gender expression, where in transsexualism, the bodily characteristics such as genitalia are more primary concerns. Go ahead.
Cool, thank you. It's just an informational question.
Anyway, so going back to my point here, so according to the atheist community, I just want to make sure I'm 100% clear on this for my video response later, that the scientific method has nothing to do with determining sex. So it doesn't matter if it's testable or repeatable or anything like that.
That's not what anybody has said.
Well, I got what you said.
As J.D. Kane was mentioning, it has to do with definitions and
the
not
scientific
the evidence.
method does not determine sex. But you can't use the scientific method to determine sex. You have no idea what I can do with what you just said with that.
What J.D. Kane said.
Concerning animals that existed millions of years ago and all of other things. I am going to have a field day with you guys.
You're not mentioning. You're not listening to what J.D. Kane said. and you're just
Yeah,
laughing and reveling in your ignorance.
No, I'm not reveling in my ignorance. I can't believe you idiots came in this room and said that the scientific method can't be used to determine
I
sex.
didn't say that.
That's what J.D. Kane just said.
He said
Yeah,
it's a matter of definitions.
That is
Yeah,
ridiculous. That is the stupidest. You know what?
It depends on
Yeah,
how
I
you're
better
using the
not
word.
win that award for dumb you know what of the year. J.D. Kane has to go on that list because that was stupid what he just said. You just don't know yet. You really don't know. I gotta
He
get
said
this.
it's a matter of definitions. How is it not a matter of definitions?
Oh my god! I gotta get this video to
Nadia,
someone.
go for it.
a number of different kinds of characteristics of a person are related to things such as sex and gender. These, in various occasions, may be discordant, and the prioritization of them is the critical aspect of the social construction of the gender, right? Where some, such as a Christian, might deem genitalia as the authoritative factor as such. Others may regard the, say, totality or
No,
otherwise
it's not just Christians, it's the
Yeah,
normal people.
excuse me. Others may regard neurology as the authoritative affair. Go ahead.
I wanted to point out what G-Man just said that in the side chat. Nadia at the end of story has a penis is what he said
That's
on the
not what
side
I
chat.
said.
I'm reading it. Nadia
has
end
a
of
penis.
story has a penis.
I said
Nadia has a penis is what you said,
Nadia-
G-Man.
Yeah, and I had a typo on my keyboard. I said
What is the
Nadia has a
problem?
penis. End of story. That's
Stop,
what I said.
Stop. What is the problem? Nadia has already admitted that she has a penis.
Right, but she wants to be addressed as she.
Yeah,
Will you
I tell you
please
what.
respect her.
So you think
Wait,
it's
wait, wait,
all
wait,
right?
wait.
So
I'm
you
gonna
believe
say that
it?
God is
Wait. Hold on, G-Man. Hold on. I want to get this straight, Scott Lawrence. So you're now saying that it is all right for people to force their subjective realities on the rest of the world. Thank you.
They're not forcing us.
She's not forcing it.
Mike right. Mike is right.
I was talking about. That is the hypocrisy. When you guys say that Christians or other religious folk are doing that, oh, how dare you impose your subjective reality on us?
Okay, Ken,
When you
That's
have
what I'm
a
saying.
person admittedly born a man who wants to be or who feels like, who believes they are a woman.
Stop for a second.
You call
Ken,
her
okay.
or she or whatever.
Okay, do you think that Nadia?
Now they're imposing their subjective reality on the rest of the external world.
Okay, Ken, let me address that.
Hypocrisy, Scott Lawrence.
Okay, let me address that quick. Do you think that Nadia woke up one day and say, "Hey, I want to be discriminated against"? Do you think Nadia woke up one day and saying, "Hey, I'm a woman, but yet I want to be discriminated against. I want to get beat up by people"? Do you think that's what she chose to do? Do you really think that's it?
Yes.
You really think so?
I'm not saying she did. However,
why?
you don't know that
30 seconds. Wait a minute, Ken, 1 second. If I'm getting 30 seconds, I can explain why. When Nadia was 100% a man, now I'm arguing from Nadia's perspective. When Nadia was 100% a man, do you think Nadia counted the cost before Nadia had that an attempt at a sex change? Do you think Nadia understood how society looks at people who has these sex changes? If Nadia decided to do it anyway, then Nadia knew full well what Nadia was doing.
So you're
Why don't you ask Nadia?
Why
don't you ask Nadia?
Your question positively.
At the very start of this hangout, Ken asked for some basic humanity to be shared amongst everyone in the hangout, to be polite, to let people finish, speaking. And at the very least, can we just refer to Nadia as whatever gender she wants to be referred to as, and for the rest of us?
Difference between what Ken said and to be a straw manning. That's not what Ken said.
Ken
at the start of this hangout
Wait a minute, Joe. Hold on a minute, Joe. You're lying, Joe. You're lying.
G-Man, I think I would like to have Nadia answer the question.
Wait a minute.
I can't speak for Nadia. Let her do that.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Because straw manning Ken. You're not going to get away with that. Joe, what Ken said, Ken was talking, and Ken said he doesn't want anybody interrupting when somebody else has been talking. How many times do you think atheists in this room have been interrupting people in the middle of their statements? Don't even go there, Joe. I will
Oh my
attack the
goodness.
And
point
I'll say that since then,
interrupted
Ken
us.
has
a
done
lot
the
of you,
same thing.
okay? Because I know what he said in the beginning.
And Ken has done the same thing. So it's
Ken
not
has
really.
done the same
Okay,
thing,
okay,
yes.
Ken has done it. Okay, and Ken can repent of that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But the fact of the matter is, don't sit there and try to compare that to respecting someone else's wishes regarding that. Remember, the atheist community says on a regular basis that you don't have to respect Christians' beliefs. You don't have to respect the beliefs of any theist on YouTube or in society. Well, guess what? When it comes to your beliefs, we don't have to respect them either.
I haven't
Okay,
said
if you
anything
want to
like that. I
believe
respect everyone's
you're a
beliefs.
woman or you want to believe that you're a man and science is saying something else completely different, welcome to the real world. You're going to get a taste of your own medicine.
And if you want to believe in a sky daddy, that's
AJ,
fine.
man.
But call Nadia a woman.
The distinction,
Okay,
the
Joe.
distinction, I think I just wanted to clarify, guys. I think the distinction Nadia's making is between sex and gender.
I would like to ask Scott a question based on the question he asked. Scott asked, do you think Nadia wishes to be discriminated against and a bunch of other things? Do you remember that question, Scott?
I do, yes.
Okay, now, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Christians, all through the Inquisition and all through the persecution where they were thrown to lions, etc., do you think they wanted persecution? Do you think that they wanted to be torn apart because of atheists?
No. And
Well, we
but
stopped doing that, didn't we? But it wasn't because of atheists. That was pagans doing that.
But that is still going on around the world. There is a publication out called Martyrs for Christ, put out by the late Dr. He wrote Torture for Christ. Richard Wurmbrand, Dr. Richard Wurmbrand. His paper, his publication still exists of Martyrs for Christ, where he publishes in his publication, he tells of current situations where Christians are still being killed, Christians are still being tortured at different places around the world for their faith.
so
I
with
have
that
a
being
retort
said,
to
Jack,
that. Guys, I need to make a retort to that because I'm a pagan in the room.
I'm trying to. I mean, he addressed me, so let me address his
I
question.
need to interrupt you, because he tried to give the credit to killing Christians in the Roman times to atheists, and that wasn't the case. That was Roman pagans that were doing that. And yes, Roman pagans definitely did kill Christians. That absolutely happened. And there are Christians that are being killed today. There are also pagans being killed today for being pagans by Christians.
You need to
Now,
check out
Scott,
some.
go ahead. That's all I wanted to say.
So my question to you, Jack, is this: you just made a good point. You said that Christians are being persecuted and stuff like that, just like Nadia. So does that make it right? Is that fair?
No,
That
but the difference is, Scott, what's going on here is when I was born, when you were born, when everybody in this room was born, you know what? Here's the reason I came into this room, this hangout, because I heard G-Man ask somebody, and I don't know who he asked. Okay, I heard him ask somebody the question, or it said something about genitalia, and the person said genitalia has nothing to do with gender. Excuse me? I mean, when I
think I probably said that.
the doctor looked to see what the genitalia was. Now they look on the little when they do that little thing when they look at when a woman's pregnant. What do they call that? It's your word is slipping. When they can take like the X-ray deal and they look in there. I forget what that little picture's called.
ultrasound.
Ultrasound, yeah. And they go, you see them two little dots right there? You know what them two little dots are? Those are testicles. That's a boy.
Well, here's what I would appreciate.
You're talking about
I'm
sex,
sorry.
not
I got. I'm sorry. I got to interrupt you real quick here.
Okay.
I would. Everyone's really talking about Naughty behind her back, and everyone's not behind her back. But let me finish. They're not allowing her to respond because we're talking about her. Let her respond to this.
I have
She's
no.
also not there right now, but she might. Nadia, are you on mic right now?
I think she's not.
Yeah.
She's not,
she
then
did put
that's
down-
fine. But I want to make sure that that's addressed.
The topic.
All right, 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 all right.
I think the big disconnect here between the two camps is the assertion that the camp on Nadia's side is making, and that's that sex and gender are two different things.
They
Yeah,
are.
I mean, because you're talking about somebody who's going through this transition, and you're addressing people who aren't. That's the biggest difference here. That's the disconnect, and that's unfair.
Well, I'm going to just be straight out. I don't think it has to. I think there's a psychological issue there. I mean, Christian Hillbilly has stated this thousands of times. When you have a psychological issue, you deal with it in that way. You don't go get a knife out and start cutting things apart.
Transitional surgery is the most effective way of dealing with transgender issues.
It's the most effective treatment.
And you know what I would cite as evidence as such is suicide rates that Mac was mentioning it the other night, and he misunderstood the difference between post and pre-op. Pre-op for transgender people who, in other words, who don't receive the surgery, the suicide rate's in excess of 40%, over 40-something%. But for transgender people who get reassignment surgery, that statistic drops to 4.1%.
It got to do with them being a man or a woman.
Well, I'm just saying that it circumvents them from killing themselves by a humongous factor.
They suffer from
So in that
depression
regard,
because
it seems to be
they're not
helping them.
Okay, so they suffer from depression because they're not accepted in society. That's understandable. Okay, but how does that prove? Wait a minute, but how does that prove that Nadia is a woman? That doesn't prove diddly squat.
She is a woman.
Nadia is not a woman.
She is a woman.
Oh, okay, whatever. So you don't like truth either, do you?
Oh,
No,
so wait a minute.
I do like truth.
I want everybody to mute in this room. Now, I have up on the screen here the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of gender. Let's look at this. The state of being male or female. We can skip the grammar usages of it. Let's just look at this. 2A, sex, example, the feminine gender. 2B, the behavioral, cultural, or psychological traits typically associated with one sex. Now let's go and see where the word gender came from. Middle English.
You just skipped the best part.
Definition 2 is exactly what we're talking about. Definition 1 is when you're conflating. So, the
2A
usage of the word that we're talking
2A says that gender is defined by sex, one sex, and then 2B
the behavioral, cultural, psychological traits.
The behavioral, cultural, or psychological traits. Okay, now all that means Ocean.
I'm trying to explain.
I don't need you to explain to me.
I don't think anyone needs to explain anything except for if you guys are going to be talking about transgenderism, you need to get Nadia involved, not other people. That's the biggest issue.
Well, I'm off of the issue per se of going back and forth with her about it. I just want us to, since we're going back and forth about what gender means, I think we should have scope with the actual definition of gender.
Distilling it down to semantical definitions of words.
Well, every word that we use has an implied meaning. That is how we communicate.
And
so therefore, it is entirely relevant.
Certainly is Merriam-Webster.
However, looking at this, the origin of gender goes from Middle English genre from Anglo, French genre or genre.
It doesn't matter the origin.
And here it is. Ultimately,
doesn't matter.
How about taking a look at the Wikipedia?
It comes from Latin, gender, which is from genus.
Can you fire up the Wikipedia entry on it?
Gender, more akin. So it comes from. From what is your birth? What is your tribe?
The basic intellectual dishonesty of Ken right now.
the basic intellect. I'm using a
You're
standardized
railroading over the
dictionary
definition
that
that
is
we're talking
used
about, and
that
then
is
going to
used
something
in
else that has
colleges
nothing to
and
do with the point.
schools. That is used in colleges and schools
Are
around the
you listening,
world.
Ken?
Yes, I am listening.
Okay.
What I'm
You're
saying,
railroading
what I'm
over the
saying, what I'm
definition.
saying is your claim is false.
You're
What I'm
railroading
saying,
over the
and what I'm
definition.
saying, moreover, and counterclaim is that you guys bend words and definitions to fit how you want to use them.
Nadia,
And
I'm sorry. Nadia,
you
I'm
to
sorry.
focus
I'm going
on
to
it.
bow out. Nadia, I apologize for this. That's all I can
Um,
say to you. I'm
no
sorry.
worries.
I'm
I,
sorry. You know, it's really sad. I feel bad for you at this point.
I learned a lot today, though. I did.
Hey, I'm
I
not
learned when
here.
doctors
And
have.
I want to make this clear. I want to make this clear. I'm not here. I'm not
Ben,
here to Nadia bash. I want to
the
make
thing,
that clear.
the thing that's happening is
However,
that you're
she
basically
brought up
putting it
this
out
whole
there
thing
how you
about
are being
God.
dishonest.
Hey, she
Your
brought up.
ears and
She
mouth
brought
are
up.
working really well at the same time, or you're not listening to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to bow out. Good night.
She
have a
she
Good
night.
night.
Good to
she
see you.
brought up.
So
Nadia brought up,
sorry to
or he brought up this
discuss, and can
whole
you be more
thing
civil?
about God being the attributes of God being incompatible. She spoke of
Yes.
there being confusion in the scripture, and this whole thing really got started. Maybe I should have shortened it and said it bluntly. What I was really saying, which is this: because she is a born man masquerading as a woman, saying that she is a woman, says she feels like a woman. I think that disqualifies her from being a good source of determining one, what's right from wrong, what confused from not confused. She's not a valid authority on stability.
May I?
Sure.
Um, yeah. As far as
I don't think she's a valid source of stability
Well,
or
basically, we shouldn't
rationality.
trust doctors.
I was actually
Is making an argument that we shouldn't trust
uh,
doctors. That's what they're basically saying. What they're saying is that, and for those of you who are watching this, the atheist community don't trust doctors. If the doctor, if a woman has a baby and the doctor looks at the genitals
The
of the
atheist
baby,
community is
makes
split
a
on this too.
determination. It's not a straw man. This is what you guys are arguing.
may
So the
I?
No,
doctor,
no. He said the
Uh,
atheist community are split
uh,
on
no. Let me finish, and then everybody will know what I'm saying.
Somebody let
my
We know exactly what you're saying,
Would
G
somebody
Man.
let
Wait
Nadia
a minute, God, let
please
me finish
interject?
so you can know what I'm saying. And I wish I had mind control. I really do. But here's the thing now, okay?
I'll leave for a second.
Basically
Wait.
what you're saying,
I shared mind control with you.
you don't know how to do it. Go to the
I
control.
already did it.
Oh, you did? Oh, thank God. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Uh,
So here's the thing now, okay? The doctors, you know, when they're delivering a baby, the first thing that they do is they look at after they cut the umbilical cord, or before or whatever, they look at the genitals to determine whether or not it's a male or a female. And after they make that diagnosis, that's what that person is on their birth certificate. They're a male or a female, right? But according to the atheist community here, that would be positively godless. Ocean, I think you're a pagan, right? And Joe, I think, right? According to one pagan and a couple of atheists in here, I don't know if it's all of you. According to you, we shouldn't trust doctors no more.
That's
No.
not at all what we're
That's
saying. You're
completely
That's what
mischaracterizing what we're
no,
saying,
I'm
G-Man.
actually.
genitals don't matter, but then they do matter.
And you're saying
Okay.
stuff that we all know. Like, yeah, none of us are going to disagree with what you're saying there. But what we're trying to say...
may I?
Well,
that, Nadia.
I've actually been
Let's-
deferring to
let's-
doctors.
wait, let us
So if
speak.
I'm supposed to
Let him
respect what
speak.
Nadia,
Mental.
believes, wait. If I'm supposed to respect Nadia's feelings and her feelings and say that Nadia is a woman and not a man, then it will be equal for me to say respect the fact that I believe in God. Stop leaving your trolling comments on our channels. Stop thumbing down our videos. And stop doing the godless stuff that you guys do on YouTube on a regular basis. Then, if you're gonna
I don't
sit
have
there and try
control
to say,
over
"Oh,
the
Nadia, I'm
community
sorry,
or the
Nadia,
atheist
you're
community,
like this,"
G-Man.
then you know what? When it comes to Nadia's titles on her videos, where she's blaming Christians for her problems, when I don't even have nothing to do with
All right.
Nadia not finding a job or anything like that.
Are you
G-Man,
claiming
the
that
atheist community is a giant
every
herd of
once
cats. You're not going to be able to make any sort of deal about comments on your YouTube videos.
No. All I'm
I'm sorry.
saying is that the atheist community is continually proving that they're nothing but a
I'm
bunch
sorry.
of hypocrites. What they're saying is don't
It's a
attack
hard
us.
test. We're
but
talking
we
about a
can
group of
attack you.
individuals, and you're trying to apply their logic to the.
Not to mention, Ocean,
doesn't
they hate the
make
truth.
any sense.
Wait a minute, Ocean.
I'm
They
sorry?
hate common sense. They hate the truth, and they attempt to regurgitate what their college professors are saying to them. And they do
We're
a
looking
very
at a
poor
community-
job.
Man,
of
you are
Community of
you have a
individuals
fundamental
and trying to
misunderstanding
apply
of sex
their
and gender.
Yes, so, in, well,
Ocean, would you take Nadia? Nadia's a woman, right? Wait a minute, hold on. Nadia is a woman, right? Ocean, why don't you go on a date with Nadia?
Because we're not romantically compatible. I don't think.
Really? Really?
Really.
Oh, okay, cool. Would you have sex with Nadia and try to have
Probably
a baby?
not.
Probably not.
No.
Why? Why?
I'm not into her.
Okay. Do you find Nadia sexually attractive?
I said I'm not into her.
Oh, okay. Calhoun, do you find Nadia sexually attractive? Calhoun?
No, I'm gay.
Nadia, you're gay. Okay.
That was the best answer ever.
Yeah, that was
Ken, they're trolling your room right now, Ken. This is trolling.
No.
I'm not trolling. I am a
No,
homosexual.
you're asking a question that I wanted to ask before. Would any of you guys on the unbelieving side ever have sexual relations with Nadia?
You know what? I'll take one for the team. I'll have sex with Nadia if she wants.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, I know where Nadia lives. So I can tell you, if Nadia says okay, if I have her permission,
A Saturday night suite at the Red Roof.
dress, and since you're gay, you're gonna be straight for a minute and have sex with Nadia, right?
If
How
you'd
is
like
that
to sin,
cool at
G-Man
all?
is happy to commission the sin for you.
Wait.
Well, really, since he's gay, Nadia could satisfy him because Nadia was born a man.
Oh, well. My
So
husband,
it's like Baskin Robbins. You can
That's
enjoy all
ignorance here
31
is
flavors.
mind-numbing.
may I speak to that question? My husband considered himself gay.
Your
And-
husband?
Yes. And he was very distressed when I, in something of retaliation for his withholding of his HIV status, came out to him as trans. Which should have been pretty obvious given that I was wandering around in 5-inch heels, 2-inch nails, and so on and so forth.
I still can't believe you guys said the scientific method has nothing to do with proving whether or not you're a man or not. All
right. Time. I want to transition to the next end of the conversation.
Okay, I have to leave for work, but I just wanted to just mention here that the
Oh,
ignorance in this hangout. No, I'm gonna finish what I'm trying to say here. I'm not gonna let you cut me off again. All right.
Joe,
The ignorance
wait a
here
minute.
has
How
been.
can you, that was very disrespectful, Joe.
No, what you're doing is very disrespectful. You're disrespecting Nadia. You've been disrespecting me.
I
You're
have
demanding
never
nobody- you're cutting me off right now.
disrespected
You're
you.
cutting me off right now. I can
Hey,
say I'm
do not raise your voice at me, Joe.
I don't raise my voice whatever the fuck.
And their guys is no.
I
Now,
apologize for that.
one of the biggest problems that I've heard, at least in my personal conversations with members of the unbelieving community, is this notion that because God is the creator, and this is understanding that for the sake of the conversation, they are entertaining the notion that God is. Why does that give God the right to rule over us and even to own us? And we sort of touched on it a bit earlier. I'd like to go back to that. Is there anybody who has a problem with the notion that if God is, he has the right to, that number one, he owns us as his creations and he has the right to rule over us? Does anybody have a problem with that in this room?
I believe I would have a problem with that.
I would too.
Wait a minute, who said it first?
I did.
Let's see. Is that Is that Nadia? Who is speaking?
No, it's me.
Oh, sorry. Uh, the person wants to be known as Callahan. Okay.
I am Callahan.
Okay. And then why do you guys have problems with that?
Well, I'll go back to my earlier example. If a father has no right to beat and abuse his daughter just because he created her.
And my response to that, as it was before, is that parents are not the true creators, but God is the creator's. Parents reproduce. So there's a distinction between one's belonging to their parents versus how one belongs to God. There's some level of a parallel, but it's not entire.
Okay, I have another example. If I decided to create a Frankenstein monster, can I beat and abuse it too?
You created the Frankenstein monster. All you did was change matter.
Yeah, but I created life from non-life.
No, you took other body parts that were already made.
Yeah, that were dead.
That's all you did. God created man from nothing. God
created man from dust.
Did he make the dust?
Probably. He did make the earth.
Because he made everything from nothing.
Well, let me ask you guys this. You guys said that you have a problem with God owning human beings.
I have a problem with slavery in general.
Okay, why do you have a problem with it?
With slavery?
No, with God owning human beings as their creator, their absolute creator.
Because, well, one, God doesn't exist, and two, I am my own person.
You're your own person. What makes you your own?
Because I am a sentient, sapient being.
You're a sentient, sapient being.
Are you an evolutionist?
What do you mean by evolutionist?
Do you believe in evolution?
I do believe in evolution.
As taught by evolutionists today.
I don't understand what this term evolutionist is, but I do believe in evolution.
The reason I'm asking you that is because what you're describing doesn't go with the textbook, because the textbook says everything created is just another, or everything that evolved is just another leaf on the tree, and you're trying to use the latter effect, which they say doesn't exist, because you're above and your own. When you are an evolutionist, you're part of that tree. You're part of nature. You're not your own.
Well, what's the difference? What's the problem?
Well, the problem is you're saying your own, and evolution says you're part of nature. So there's a contradiction.
Well, I am a part of nature.
Well, you said you're of your own. You can rule yourself. But you're not.
Well, I do rule myself.
You're controlled by the laws of nature, whether you like it or not, if you're an evolutionist. You're not your own.
What's the problem?
The problem is you just said you're your own. If you're an evolutionist, you're controlled by the laws of nature.
But no one can do anything about the laws of nature.
Well, then the laws of nature.
Controlled in what regard, teacher?
Not listen to what I'm saying. If the laws of nature are what's ruling, then you're not ruling yourself. The laws of nature are ruling you.
What?
In which case,
that's
which case, you're not really your own. You're like a puppet at some level.
We are like.
But there is no puppet master.
Very deep lovers. Yes, there is no puppet.
Well, given what teacher said, according to that model, the laws of nature would be the puppet master.
But the laws of nature are not a sentient being.
Oh, so what matters? So wait a minute, teacher. So the real problem is you have a problem with a sentient being owning another sentient being, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's slavery.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's work with that. Let me ask you guys. Do you have pets?
Yeah. Well, I used to
I do
have
not.
a cat, but it died.
I do
Okay.
not.
Okay. Well, let's work with the person who does have a pet or
What,
had a pet.
are you going to say that because they have a pet that they're slavery? That they're
Well, was the pet alive,
I said sentient and sapient.
sentient, and say, I'm gonna work from where I am right now. We'll make our way back.
If you don't
So,
know the definitions, Jim, you can just query them. I was just curious. I just wanted to point out. Sorry to
pardon
interrupt you,
me,
man. Sorry to
pardon me.
interrupt you. But J.D. Kane there doesn't
No,
look like he has voice.
pardon me. I'm speaking.
Um,
Yeah. So, you said you owned a cat? Was it?
I used to own a cat.
You used to own a cat. Was the cat alive?
It'd be concerning if I owned a dead cat.
Okay, so the cat was alive. Did the cat have the ability to reproduce?
I assume it would.
Okay, fine. Did the cat have some manner of ability to interact with you?
It did.
Did the cat play with itself at times?
I don't know. I have to ask the cat.
Well, did you ever observe the cat playing with itself, like playing alone, like just
Like
entertaining
masturbating?
itself? No, entertaining themselves.
I guess they did.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think we've established that the cat was both alive and conscious. Did you consider
Well,
yourself?
sentient.
Did, yeah. So did you consider yourself owning the cat?
I would see myself owning the cat.
Okay. Could you have? I take it you brought the cat.
What?
I take it at some point you brought the cat.
Brought?
Bought. Pardon me, bought.
Bought?
Yeah.
My dad did.
Okay. Well, the cat was purchased. Could you at any time have sold the cat?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see any problem with this?
No. Because the
Okay.
cat is not a
So
safe.
wait.
I do.
So far, you said you see no problem with one sentient being owning a lower sentient being.
I said sapient and I said sentient and sapient.
I understand your original point. I'm speaking now to the example that we just went through. The cat is a sentient being. You are a higher sentient being. You have no problem with the notion of one sentient being owning a lower sentient being, based upon the fact that the sentient being is of and was of a lower class than you are. Number one. Number two, you consider yourself right and justified in considering yourself an owner of that lower sentient being, even though you nor the purchaser, which in this case was your father, did nothing to create that sentient being, but yet God, who is exponentially greater than humans compared to our superiority to animals, God created us out of abilities and faculties and resources that were entirely His own, undisputedly. He created us.
But the cat is not sapient.
I don't understand how that
So,
connects from the Socratic method way would.
Well, it's
method
very
of learning a
relevant
long
because his argument about a sentient being owning another sentient being is illegitimate, because if he's saying that he was justified to own something lower sentient, lower compared to him, that he didn't create, how is God then not justified owning something lower than him that he entirely created? That's point number one. So that eliminates sentient. The real matter now is this sapient issue. So now you're saying because we're human, we're special.
Yeah, because you see what he's saying is he's a man, he can own another man, but he can own something lower. God, there is no other God that God owns, but he can own something lower.
May I? as I am at least
It's
consistent in my
hypocrisy.
behavior here, and I would note that I am a vegan and refrain from owning or eating other sentient beings. This consideration is a matter in which I am consistent, and you cannot approach me in the same manner. Go ahead.
Yes.
Well, actually, can I do
Well,
it? Can I do it,
go
Ken?
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. But Ken, my argument might be a slight different from yours.
Go ahead.
So let me get this straight. So you're a vegan. That means you don't eat meat, right? Okay. Do you eat fish? Do you eat fish?
No.
Okay. So you eat nothing but vegetables. And are you related to vegetables? Yes or no?
There you go.
Ultimately, yes.
Are you related to
Not
vegetables? Yes or no?
Kinship is not the basis.
I'm just asking a question.
I acknowledge that there is indeed kinship between me and plants. Go ahead.
Okay, so you evolved, so you share a common ancestor according to the theory of evolution with vegetables, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Do you eat these vegetables?
Yes.
Do you believe? Okay. Do you see anything wrong with eating these vegetables?
The reason why is because they are not sentient. Go ahead.
Oh, bro, go ahead, Ken.
I just wanted to point out something.
That's ridiculous.
If God owns us, you're suggesting with His ownership comes some form of control, and I just want to know how free will works with that.
That's a moving the goalposts.
Well, I can tell you that.
No. I think to the contrary, G-Man. I think that is a fair question.
All right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is, God made us, but in the way that He made us, He did not make us like robots. He made us in His image, and part of that image was involving to making us living souls. Part of being a living soul, then an inspirited living soul, is to have a will. Now, having a will gives us faculty of choice. However, that is distinct from saying it gives us the authority to take that choice and use it rebelliously against God. And a perfect model and an ideal model, the will should have and would have been used to willfully acknowledge God and willingly submit to Him out of an appraisal of His goodness toward humanity. And moreover, just for who He is. Say that again?
What goodness towards humanity?
Let me ask you, my friend, have you heard that God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes on Him would not perish but have everlasting life?
Is God.
Yes, so I believe that Jesus Christ. I believe that Jesus Christ
from Himself.
I believe that Jesus. Well, I'll explain that since you brought up the distinction between Him being God and Him being the Son of God. And in true form, Jesus is spirit. He is God, or part of the Godhood. When He took on humanity, because God chose to manifest Himself in a form that came through the womb of a woman, in this case a virgin woman, Miriam, by the sovereign power, miraculous power of God. Because He came through the womb of a woman, for that sake He is also called the Son of God.
But He's still God.
No.
Well, that was just simply tying together both ends of that. However,
so basically, the whole story of the Bible is God sacrifices Himself to save us from Himself.
No.
To save us from
the Bible either, I can tell.
To save us from the penalty of our sins, because no rebelliousness can permanently rebelliousness toward God can permanently inhabit the same space where God is, because it would be innately disrespectful.
Okay, why
did God create hell?
That's the question.
Why did God create hell?
So agnostic God creates hell. So
No, answer the
he's
question.
saving us from himself.
Answer the question. No, answer the question.
God create
Why
hell.
did God create hell?
Yes, he did, but why?
It doesn't matter why. He's a
Yes,
psychopath.
it entirely matters why. Because if you were not in sin, if you were not living in sin, then there would be no reason for anyone to go to hell, but you have sinned as we all have. We all have rebelled against God. Now God stands offering, apart from our own works of obedience, a way for us to be reconciled to him and avoid going into hell. So now if hell is such a problem for you, then why don't you receive the way of reconciliation God has made for himself?
Let me give
Made himself a way of reconciliation made between us and God.
To that,
May I?
because Kim missed something important. When God created hell originally, God created hell for the devil and his angels, and everyone who follows him is going to the same place. Now, Mr. Ken is asking legit.
Did God create
Wait a minute.
Did God create Satan and the angels?
Calhoun, when you get in trouble, I know you like to overtalk. But listen, okay? If you're so concerned about going to hell, why don't you accept God's free gift through Jesus Christ?
May I?
Can you let Nadia?
No, Nadia, would you wait until the questioning is done, then we'll get to you, please? So you can put your hand down.
But by the way, I
Hell,
can't.
God, heaven, none of that exists.
You don't know that it doesn't exist. You believe that it doesn't exist.
I know.
I don't believe it exists. Can
Right.
you prove that hell, heaven, and God exists?
I don't have to.
Well, yes, you do. You're making a positive claim.
God is gonna.
No,
God has
Yes,
it.
you do.
You're going to prove it to your own conscience.
You're missing something. We're claiming by faith that we believe God exists.
So you have no reason to believe.
Listen, no. You need to go watch my video.
I'm not going to watch your videos because it's going to be more Christian propaganda.
Excuse me. Well, no. See, there's the problem. What you're saying is, I don't want to listen to your video because it might actually be true, and then I'll be accountable for what it says.
No, it's going to be more Christian propaganda.
Even though it gives the
Can you prove God exists?
Even though it gives the explanation of why we believe the Bible, because there is evidence. Okay.
God has proven that God exists,
and we accept that evidence by faith.
And God is making you more and more
by saying that you require faith to believe in it, though. I think.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference between faith. There's a difference between biblical faith and blind faith.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You might have a well-reasoned.
Okay.
To believe in your faith.
Wait, hold on.
But you do have to concede that.
And have faith that the building is only 3 inches tall, and then jump off.
I said, hold on. The difference between biblical faith and blind faith is blind faith expects you to just take something as being so, or to entrust yourself to something based on the positing that it does exist, or such is real, or such is to be trusted. Whereas biblical faith has it that God reveals himself, he discloses himself in whatever form or way he chooses to a person, and based upon that persuasion, they are expected to entrust themselves then to that God, because he has disclosed himself to them. So no one here, at least should be, expecting a blind faith out of you guys. That's not what God is requiring. God is expecting you guys to respond to the
I think that your faith based on the Bible, my friend.
Pardon me, my friend. God is expecting you to respond to the revelation of himself through Jesus Christ that he's going to give to you individually.
What revelation?
You tell me.
Are you pointing to the Bible, which is a 3,000-year-old?
No, because now speaking
fairy tales written by Bronze Age savages.
Well, first of all, everything that you said in that statement was an assumption.
No, it's fact.
No, it's not fact.
It is fact.
There was
The
nothing
Bible
about
is a
what you
book of
said.
fairy tales.
There was nothing
It was
about
written
what you
by
said that.
3,000-year-old Bronze Age savages.
There was nothing about what you said that was fact. Here's lie number
It's all
one.
fact.
Here's lie number one. The
Yeah.
Bible is 3,000 years old. No, it is not. First of all, the Bible is not a book. The Bible is a compendium of 66 books.
You can argue definitions all you want, but it's just a book of fairy tales written by Bronze Age savages 3,000 years ago.
God inspired 66 books written or penned or put down on whatever form of medium it was by
How do you know it was inspired by God and not by
different
Satan?
authors,
Or
40 different authors, 40 different authors over a span of more than 1,500 years. And these collections of writings over the course of time was later compendiumed into one volume that you see as a book. But it is 66 books. As far as
imaginations of other Bronze savages. And this is why a lot of Christians here on YouTube are having an issue with me right now, because I don't believe we should be wasting our time trying to explain stuff that these people already know.
I don't.
No, but
I'm asking questions.
This is my hangout. This is my hangout, and I'm going to expose the lies.
Wait a minute. If you're going to expose a lie, wait a minute, Mr. Ken. If you're going to expose a lie, let's do it biblically. The Bible says by the foolishness of preaching that we're supposed to preach the gospel, right? That's how people are going to be saved, right?
Right.
He's asking you questions he doesn't care about. So I want to talk about what he cares about. And this is what this is what it's coming down to at the end of the day. Calhoun has demonstrated for the time that he's been in this room that he doesn't give a rat's behind what evidence you present before him, because he has 900 other questions. Wait a minute, Calhoun. I'm going to get straight to the point. I'm not going to play around with you, okay? You don't care about evidence.
I do care about evidence.
No, I'm going to
lying about me.
Wait a minute, Calhoun, because I'm not going to waste time with you, okay? If you cared about evidence, when Mr. Ken Jones told you that the Bible wasn't a book, that it was a library of books inspired by men who wrote these things down on scrolls by God.
Inspired by God.
Take that in consideration, and then you would have made a comment. Instead, you said you don't care. The moment you did that, you demonstrated that you are suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
I'm not suppressing the truth in anything.
You care about evidence, or you don't.
So let's.
I do care about evidence, but you first have to present it.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute, Ken. Hold on a minute. If you care about evidence, what is the Bible? Is it a book or a library of books?
I'm not going to get into semantics with you.
No.
It's not semantics.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a matter of fact.
He corrected you and said that it was a library of books.
It's semantics.
You care about evidence. Wait a minute, Calhoun.
What is your evidence for God?
Is the Bible a book or a library of books?
It doesn't matter.
You are exposed as a liar because you are suppressing truth. You don't even care about accurately representing what the Bible is.
What's the difference between a library of books
and
a book?
Wait a minute. From this day forward, Calhoun, okay? Evolution is the act of a dog taking a dump. And I don't care what you think. Atheism is a religion.
What?
And if you don't care about my
a dog taking a dump?
You want to care about how I'm representing atheism, care about how you're representing the Bible. The Bible is a
you're making a mountain out of a small issue of whether the Bible is a book.
Wait a minute. Of history, poems, words of wisdom, and epistles, and gospels. If you don't know what the Bible is, stop talking about stuff you don't understand.
He knows that. He knows that.
Okay, Calhoun. So if you care about the truth and you care about evidence, accurately handle the evidence, or don't talk.
May I?
Yes, Nadia, go ahead.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the Christians are being intellectually dishonest in their denial of the fact that there are no such things as gods. It is rather clear from.
No, you're being intellectually. You're not intellectually dishonest.
Let her talk.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Please let her talk. Just let her lay down her argument.
Oh,
it's an argument that she's already made several times.
Yeah.
Well, let Nadia make it again. Go ahead, Nadia.
Oh, well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, beyond the fact that one cannot drive an axiology to justify the question regarding whether there are such things as gods, that, of course, causality precludes there being things on the order of a cause of the universe, such as your notion of a Christian God, prime mover, and all that. And, of course, the claims of your historicity of this fictional mythological hero, Jesus Christ, is readily contradicted by genre analysis to the Gospels, which finds that chiasm and articulation of aphorisms and parables dominates the discussion, where the rest is largely allusions to Psalms 22.
Okay, now
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I was gonna let Ken respond. Go ahead and finish, Nadia. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, can Ken respond?
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, go ahead and respond to what Nadia just said. Go ahead.
Now, Nadia, as obvious, you're taking clearly the word of men over the claimed word of God. Now, that would be a problem number one, as far as I'm concerned, and even more bolstered in confidence by the fact that I know God speaks to individual hearts and souls Himself. So, in your conscience, although you do fight it off, you know what you're saying is a falsehood, and you'll know it even greater before you leave this earth. But that's number one. Number two, you still have yet, for all that talk, to explain how you can definitely say that there is no God.
Well, that's not so easy. The notion of a prime mover is radically incoherent. For instance, the Kalam cosmological argument consists of two false premises and a composite fallacy. And the moral argument.
Okay, you're arguing against prime mover, which is
Let Nadia finish, and then you respond. Go ahead, Nadia.
Oh, I said, and the moral argument, is obviously the open question problem, which shows that it itself is not a valid basis for any kind of objective morality and such. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ken.
Now, that being said, Nadia, first of all, prime mover is a scientific term that some suggest is synonymous with God. That is not the claim of the scripture itself. However, how is anything that you said tonight falsifying the idea that God created the heavens and the earth? We've already established early in this hangout that none of us as human beings have ever seen any model where life comes from non-life. Therefore, any suggestion that life does or even can come from non-life is a philosophical assertion that is largely and actually entirely unfounded, although some would take some things to begin to make that suggestion. Therefore, if someone has a philosophical default judging or based upon human observation, it would incline us to the notion that we human beings in all other life, since we only see life coming from life, all commonly came from a life that is greater than us and not non-life. So therefore, how do you explain, understanding all those things, how do you explain the notion that there is no God? Because there is another complicator in that whole issue. Not only do we observe that life comes from life before it, but each of the living things, as so far as we actually observe and have observed in our lifetimes, only observe that all of those things that reproduce only reproduce according to their own likeness, according to their own kind. That is to say, like cats produce cats, humans produce humans, dogs produce dogs, and so on. This is what we observe. Yet, we also see at the same time that only humans produce humans, only dogs produce dogs. We see life comes from life, yet we also see the problem that all of those life forms depend on the same life form existing before it to come into being. So there is a necessity of life producing life. However, we need a necessary cause for that cycle of reproduction and that closed cycle, according to their kinds, to be set in motion. So there has to be a life before all the life forms that started that cycle of reproduction, kind-based or kind-contained reproduction, because it could not have always existed. We need a break in that chain for the initialization of all the kinds.
And that's where abiogenesis comes in.
Which we already said is inconsistent.
No, you have not.
Yes, we have, because we have not observed life coming from non-life. We haven't even observed that it's possible.
Because you don't know, it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Hold on. You have to understand, this is Ken Jones' room, okay? If he's speaking, let the man speak, seriously. Okay?
Well, if he's wrong, I have to chime in.
Well, if he's wrong, then he's wrong. But if he's right, he's right. Then let him speak, because it's his room.
Thank you.
Yeah, admin don't play. I love admin.
Go ahead, Nadia. You were speaking of abiogenesis.
That the history of organic living matter is finite is not particularly interesting or controversial. Go ahead.
Okay, Nadia, have you seen life come from non-life? Yes or no?
Organic living matters.
Nadia, have you seen life come from non-life? Yes or no?
I have never seen a single living creature of any kind being hatched or born. Go ahead.
Okay, so you've never seen life comes from non-life?
I've never seen life coming from life either.
To the best of your knowledge, how did you get here?
I'm sorry?
To the best of your knowledge, how did you get here as a being? Where did you come from?
Due to the rather sad fact that apparently I wasn't aborted.
Do you have parents? Yes or no?
Unfortunately.
Can I get a yes or a no? Can you stop being disrespectful, please?
That was unfortunately yes.
Yes. Do you know any human being that exists that did not have parents?
I believe there are
allegations. Or better said, we're not born of
clone. I believe a allegation of a clone exists, but
well, even a clone would be an artificially made a person or other species of being, other species of being. So that clone was made from genetic material. That genetical material that the clone came from that other person. That person had parents. Therefore, the parents of the clone are the same as the parents of the original.
I'm not sure everyone would quite buy that, but
look, I'm not going to split semantics with you. Your refusal to answer these questions, yes or no, shows that you are being a deceiver. And you know what? I consider that the same as trolling. Thank you. All I ask for is honesty. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but just be real. Is that too much to ask for?
She was being real.
By not answering questions, yes or no questions, yes or no?
She was answering questions.
By not answering questions, yes or no questions, yes or no. Things that can simply have a yes or no.
Things aren't that simple.
Hold on. I think what Ken Jones is trying to ask Is it too hard to answer questions with a yes or a no, as simple as he was asking them?
Well, the world's not a yes
Can
or
you
no.
answer that with a yes or a no?
The world's not a yes or no
Well, I'm
dichotomy.
going to ask you this one more time, then unbroadcast you if you don't answer.
What's the question?
Can you answer his questions that are simple with a yes or a no?
Do you believe in nuance?
You didn't answer the question. Go ahead, Ken Jones.
Okay, thank you. So as it is now, since we can't get a yes or no out of some folk, I want to make another transition in the conversation, and I guess this will be the last segment. There are people who find fault with the God of the Bible because we see in the Old Testament examples where God had the nation of Israel wipe out whole peoples, including in some circumstances women and children. Although the slander really comes in several facts. Number one, they present the notion oftentimes as if this is the regular practice or regular mode or regular attitude of the God of the Bible toward humanity. Whereas if they were honest, they would say or acknowledge at least that these things were largely contained within the national borders of the land of Canaan, now known largely as Israel, and in other cases in the space between Egypt and Israel. That's number one. Number two, that these things were judgments, judgments against the people's sins. Sin, although you can sin, you can offend other people. Sin at the ultimate level is offense against God, and I think anyone in here who's honest understands that if a person creates a thing, that they create what they create according to a certain vision, and that vision is something that contains that is contained and originates within themselves. So they're working in the shaping of that creation is according to their own vision for the creation. I think that's generally understood and agreed upon. The issue comes in then that people seem to feel that when it's humanity that is the creation, suddenly these understandings and these rules should change without any justification. What is overlooked in this is that when God brought those slaughterings upon those nations, they had, number one, offended the Lord greatly in their acts. They were disobedient to their Maker. They were breathing His air, living according to living with the life breath that He gives them, and taking that and doing their will on the earth in spite of there being antiquitous knowledge of God. Some of them even went so far as to make graven images of metal, wood, stone, and such things, and call that their God, and others still yet saying that there was no God, and others still yet, while acknowledging that there was a true God, would not serve Him, even though they do not supply life to themselves, breath to themselves, and the faculty, the inspiration that it takes to have animation for movement. They were giving themselves none of these qualities. All these are due to their Maker, but yet with their Maker they refuse to serve Him with these faculties. But yet when God now takes them out of His creation, called earth in this life, there's a problem. They say that God's unjust. But as I'll get into in a couple of minutes, we do similar things. And understand the reason why God judges sin, or at least one of the reasons that He imposes temporal judgments on the earth, is to keep sin from spreading out. Because God knows the severity of the consequences of going on and sinning against Him. God as creator is not like one of us in the sense that He can't just let bygones be bygones. And and he wouldn't. God, as the creator, as the purpose giver to life, is responsible for setting the agenda of life and setting the priorities and the goals for the creation, including us. So the only way God could ever allow man to entirely just go on doing as man pleases would involve ultimately man destroying himself, man destroying in the process the rest of creation, and ultimately it's to ask God, who created his creation for his purpose, to cede over effectually and effectively his position as God to humanity at the ultimate peril of humanity. And comments, questions,
Mr.
dissents?
Ken Jones, I believe the person that you ask a yes or no question to is ready to answer your question with a answer. The person that was on broadcasted, and he will explain after his answer the reasoning which why, if you mind. He is now broadcasted. You may now go ahead, and if Ken Jones lets you get your whole thing out, then that's his business. It's his room.
Okay.
Okay, I cannot answer simple yes or no questions with a yes or no, because the world is full of nuance. I cannot answer
Can
it
you
honestly.
state what you posted in the side chat then?
Okay, let me scroll up.
Or
Well, then
shall
I
I
guess
read it for you?
Well, then I guess I have to answer no, because I do not believe in simple dichotomies, because the world exists in nuance.
Let me ask you this. If I ask you, is water like comes out of a faucet, is that water wet? How would you answer that?
Is water wet?
Could you answer that as in a yes or a no?
Well, I guess I could.
Okay, so you do have a selective ability to answer questions in a yes or no. Okay, thank you. That's all I
Well, it
wanted.
depends on the question.
Sounds to me as though you keep changing your parameters.
Well, I believe in nuance.
Can you just simply answer his question with a yes or no, his original one?
And what question was that?
The question in which, remind me, Ken Jones, of your actual question so I don't misstate your question.
Actually, a question in Nadia
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was a question in Nadia.
about did clones come from previously? Did clones come from previous?
Oh, actually, I remember. I asked her, did all people that she's ever known come from parents? And the one exception she could think of was clones. Instead of answering yes or no, she brought out clones, and my response to her was, well, those clones were made from the genetic material of the original human being. The original human being had parents, therefore the parents of the original human being would also be the parents of the clone, because it's the parents' genetic material that's in that clone, just as it's the genetic material that makes up the person the clone was made from.
Well, I believe
So,
she was trying to give a nuanced answer.
but I specifically in the question I asked for a yes or no answer. And she did that on every question. That's how I know she was trolling and being deceptive. The reason she was doing that, or I presume to be the reason she was doing it, is because she deliberately knew where those yes or no answers would take her, and she wanted to evade where that was going, and that shows the dishonesty that I was speaking of.
Ken,
Well,
if you ask a
Can
yes or
you
no
not
question,
interrupt him until after he's finished, please, JD?
yeah, he was clearly done.
JD. Let's let him finish
Almost not a
first.
word here. I think I've made a little bit of.
Well,
Anyway,
it doesn't matter how long you've been quiet. It's Ken Jones's room.
Yeah, and he can moderate just fine without your help.
And he wanted me to come in here and moderate. So if he wanted me to come in here and moderate, then that means
it's his room.
Respect the moderator.
Right. Anyway.
Now, can you let him finish?
Well, at
please,
this point,
JD?
now you're just disrupting the course of the conversation.
No, you are. When I specifically asked you, can you let him finish?
One, he was done. Two, now you're just interrupting him. Now,
Can you let
if you
him
want to interrupt
finish,
things, that's fine, but it's not necessary.
JD, I have given him moderative powers, so would you respect admin, please? But go ahead. I was done.
Go about your business.
You can ask your question now because I was done.
So I guess admin was wrong.
Actually, he was talking, but what Ken is saying was that his point was finished, but we all heard the last couple of words just after.
Yeah, he didn't give it a legitimate pause to see that I was done. He just hopped on assuming, but I was actually done.
Thought this was supposed to be like a rapid fire discussion.
So go ahead, JD.
Well, what are we? I don't even remember what the question was anymore.
I heard you. You said it had something to do with when you're asking a yes or no question.
Yeah, if you ask a yes or no question when the answer is not as simple as a yes or no, it's a common lawyer's trick that laymen sometimes pick up without knowing. The reason people don't always answer yes or no is because, well, it's not that simple. If I answer yes or no, then you're not going to actually know what I mean or what I think. You're simply going to get, whatever dichotomy you set, and the dichotomy might not reflect reality, and usually will not. When you ask yes or no question, they're going to say, okay, well, it's not as simple as that. Let me expound on it. Because answering yes or no means you don't know what they mean. So what's the point?
Well, JD, let me ask you now. Do you have parents?
Yes.
Do you know any human being that does not have parents, or were not born to parents?
I don't know any personally. I know of them.
So, let me rephrase. Do you know...
There are people who do not have parents.
Do you know any people, let me rephrase, who were not born of parents?
No.
So, everybody you know, every human being you've observed has been born of a mother and a father.
I do.
That's true.
It depends on how you look at it.
Mr. Ludick, I believe he
heard
was actually addressing J.D. Kane, not you.
Well,
Okay.
I'm speaking to the
wanted to
matter
point
of
out
genetical facts.
Okay. But there are surrogate mothers through in vitro, so I just want to point that out.
Well, those children still would have fathers. They just don't have fathers who are in those life. Those women were impregnated by sperm, so whoever the sperm came from would be the father. They're just not raising the child. So the question was really pertaining to the genetical facts of the matter. Now, we all agree that as far as what we've observed, humans come from humans.
I'll grant you that.
And cats come from cats. And so forth.
I grant you all that.
So what I'm saying is, if all we have ever actually observed is life comes from life before it, what inclines a person initially to first even entertain the notion that life can come from non-life?
Okay, well, there's a problem there. Life, as far as we know it, all biological life comes from other biological life. This is true. This is what we observe. However, unless you believe biological life is eternal, it originated somehow. Now, whether that was from a deity or from some natural process, we don't know. I think a natural process is more likely, given that a deity doesn't really answer anything. And it's really it could be.
Well, what do you mean it doesn't answer anything?
Well, it's not an explanation. It's simply a statement.
But
X did. Okay, how you have to? If you can't answer how, then you haven't actually said anything. You've just
But that doesn't matter to the fact of whether they did it or not.
Well, that is true. However, if you want people to believe that it was the case,
Hold on. Let Ken Jones speak, please. It's his room.
yeah, again,
That would be
Please, JD Kane, I do not really want to unbroadcast you. I seriously don't. I have high respect
you're
for you
just
being an
disrupting the
atheist.
conversation with all these interruptions. There's no.
I have high respect for you being an atheist, JD.
Again,
Whereas
that has nothing to do with
there's a
it.
problem with that when you're interrupting.
Ken Jones and I know each other, and you don't need to moderate our conversations. We've had several.
Well, if you weren't interrupting, I would never have a problem, JD. Now would we?
I'm going to be clear. You are the problem right now. Please stop talking.
JD, he is the moderator of my choosing, and he has
He's moderator, but he's screwing up the conversation.
he has my authority. So if you respect me, then you have to respect him. Respecting him in this case, as the moderator, is respecting me.
Mr. JD, I have unbroadcasted you, and I'll leave you unbroadcasted for a couple seconds until you calm down. I'm simply here to help Ken Jones out. I respect you as an atheist, as a very, very well-known atheist, if I might add. But keep in mind, just because you are well-respected and you leave, that does not mean that I still do not respect you. Ken Jones, you are now able to take the floor over. It's your room.
Okay, and I hope everybody in that statement I just made about admin got a chance, and I know this is an aside, but I hope you got a chance to understand an illustration there of what it means when it said, sort of what it means when it says that whoever honors, for example, whoever honors Jesus honors the Father also. Not that I'm God, of course, but as this being my room and me choosing admin to be the moderator and giving him my authority of moderation, respecting him is respecting me, and that's an example of God having sent Jesus. Therefore, if you disrespect Jesus or dishonor Jesus, you're dishonoring and disrespecting God who sent him. Admin is here in my name. That means he is here in my authority, representing me as the moderator. So that's just an aside. I hope somebody picked up on that illustration.
Can I make one quick comment real quick, Ken?
Sure.
Yeah, JD, and I don't know if he's listening anymore or not, but one of the things that just happened in that interchange between you and him and talking about basically biogenesis or, the biological life and where it began, he made the statement, we don't know where it started. Please, JD, do not use the word we unless you're talking about evolutionists, okay? Because we Christians do know where life came from.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
He was more appealing to mainstream science, teacher. That's what you're saying.
That's an interruption. Please allow me to just finish. We have the Bible. We do know. So when you use terminology, please use it correctly. Thank you.
And if I can piggyback off of what teacher said, and the other gentleman said, if he's appealing to mainstream science, then he should preface his comments with an introductory statement. We who subscribe to the mainstream science models, or we mainstream scientists don't know, and therefore, be honest. Yeah. If we were writing this in text, if we were writing a paper, we would be forced by grammatical rules.
So did you take it from when he was speaking?
I'm going to actually say this, Ludic. I just went through this with JD Kane, and I've went through this with the other guy. I'll go through it with you as well.
So when do I know when to speak?
When he's finished.
He can go, admin. He can go.
I'm just curious. Did you misunderstand him? Did you think he was speaking for you? Or did you already know who he was speaking for?
No, I know he wasn't speaking for me, but when he says we,
and your rationalization to behave the way you did towards him is not justified.
Well, when a person says we, it's suggesting the notion that they're speaking for humanity, or this is the majority opinion of humanity. That's usually what's being meant when they say we humans, we people.
Yeah, I need to make one more comment.
And that's a falsehood. That's not a majority opinion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because of what he just said. See, I get what you're saying and I get what he said, but he's saying that because you understood he wasn't talking to you, and because I understood he wasn't talking to me or whatever, that makes it that he can just say the word we, but that's not the issue. The issue is that for somebody on the outside listening, or somebody that will listen to this tape later, okay, or watch this video later, and he used the word we in a room means the people in the room. Well, the problem is not everybody in this room is we agreeing with we as in him.
And not only that, teacher, but JD has used that phrase we in rooms when it's just been me and him. So when he uses it, most often he's speaking that from a position, okay, that most people, most human beings agree with mainstream science viewpoints, and therefore anyone who's speaking contrary out of that is speaking from a position of deviation and is in the minority. That's why I needed to address that, because he has, as a pattern, used we in a context as speaking or presuming to speak for the majority of people, or maybe he's getting at the majority of quote-unquote intelligent people.
Well, I would say that JD is correct in you saying we, because no one on earth knows how life started. You Christians can claim all you want all day that you know how life started, but all you got is a ancient book of fairy tales.
Well,
again, you're asserting that it's fairy tales. Let me ask you a question.
It is a fairy tale.
Let me ask you some questions, Callahan. And I know you're doing this just for your laughs, but let me ask you a couple of honest questions. Were you alive 3,000 years ago? Were you consciously alive 3,000 years ago?
No.
No, you weren't. Okay. So did you see the writers 3,000 years ago, as you say it, 3,000 years ago? The writers of the different biblical books that were written by that time period. Were you present in these places where they claim to have heard from or been inspired some way by God? Were you there with them to say empirically, or rather definitively, that those things did not happen? Were you there with them?
No, and neither are you.
Neither was I. Okay. So you're saying no, you weren't there. Okay. Can you build? Do you have the ability, and have you built a time machine that allows you to travel backwards in time and observe the past?
It's possible that one day time travel might be possible. No current method can travel back in time.
So when you're saying no current method, you're saying, or including in that you do not have the ability to travel back in time currently. Okay. So how are you saying definitively that the scriptures are definitely fairy tales when you admit that you were not there when these people claim to have been inspired by God or heard from God in some manifestation or another? You say you've admitted that you were not there and you cannot travel back in time to observe it. So you're saying everything that you're saying from a position of spatial or rather chronological distance, really chronological and spatial distance, and you are claiming knowledge that is, by your own admission, really inaccessible to you.
Yeah, but it's inaccessible to you either.
Well, the only way someone could know such a thing You said you want to be known as Callahan, even though your avatar says Cocahoon.
That's because that's how the name is how it's pronounced.
It's pronounced Callahan?
Well, it's actually pronounced Coolahoon, but the English
Coolahoon.
corruption is Callahan.
Okay, so that's why you want to be known as Callahan, despite what your avatar says. Okay, so the only way then a person can know these things about the past is either they would have to have some type of documentation by an eyewitness or an eyewitness who was alive at the time. Would have to be alive in their time, whoever that person is in the distance, and reveal that to the person who is now in the present time. Would you agree with those statements?
I guess I would, but the Bible's not our only source.
Okay, the Bible is not our only source. Okay. However, what I was actually referring to is the written record left by eyewitnesses would be contained in the scripture. And outside of that, I was referring to the Spirit of God, who is eternal, who would have been there as an eyewitness, who is alive presently, and he's able to speak to whoever he chooses. However,
also archaeological records too. Like ancient dig sites.
Okay, can you tell me which of these which of these secular records do you claim uh, uh, involves a person, or they account as having been in the exact place in time where these people claim to have heard from God?
Well, I know the Romans were around when Jesus was supposedly alive, and there's no record of the Jesus Christ in Roman records.
That's not actually the truth now, is it?
How is it not the truth?
There is the historian Tacitus, who spoke of this man Crestus, who suffered the extreme penalty under Pontius Pilate. Now, he was a historian removed about, let's say, somewhere between 30 and 40 years removed from the time, but I think someone looking at this 1,000 years from now would think it reasonable for us to believe one of us could possibly be a reasonable commentator on something such as what happened in the 1950s, such as the civil rights movement, or what happened during World War II. Although none of us were born, we were close to that time, especially compared to those people 1,000 years from now who may be looking back on this.
Was there a question in there?
Well, do you think that's reasonable?
What's reasonable?
Was that a serious question?
Yeah, it is serious because I really it's hard to understand you when you just ramble on like that.
Ramble on like that. I'm explaining something in response to you. What you say I'm rambling. Okay.
Please repeat the question.
Is it reasonable for someone watching this hypothetically 1,000 years from now to think that one of us would be a reasonable commentator on what happened during the civil rights era or what happened during World War II? Although we were not born, we are people living close to that era, especially compared to the person living 1,000 years from now. Do you believe it's right for them or just of them to believe that one of us would be a reasonable commentator on those things, the civil rights era or World War II?
Well, I would assume it'd be unreasonable to think of us as knowledgeable or commentators on World War II or the civil rights movement, because one, neither of us have lived through those time periods, and two, none of us had the knowledge or research of those eras.
Why
Or
why do you assume none of us have the research? Both of
do you
us
have the
living during
research?
this time. Yes, I have researched the civil rights era, and I've also studied history even at the collegiate level. So I have trained professors. Some of them were alive during those eras.
Well, I guess due to your credentials, I would say it's reasonable to assume that you have some, you
Well,
know,
now what I'm saying is
expertise in the subjects.
Tacitus was a recognized historian of his day, and he lived in less than a century after the life of Jesus Christ concluded. And he said that there was a Christus who suffered the extreme penalty under Pontius Pilate, which lines up with Christ receiving the extreme penalty of
But
crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. So that
no,
negates that you said that there was no Roman record to Jesus's.
no, that's wrong. Let me explain why. Today we have a massive infrastructure for collecting and storing data. Even before the internet, we had libraries and universities. What did they have 2,000 years ago in that area?
Well, let me ask you, where do you think all these present ideas came from, such as libraries and university? They were founded
Probably.
ultimately in the scholarship and and the tradition, the philosophical tradition of Greco-Roman past.
Okay, and
So if you're going down the road of making some type of argument that these people didn't have libraries and didn't have scholars of their time and record keeping of their time, if that's where you're going, that would be an
well,
entirely forced and illegitimate
there's also
claim.
another thing. There's tons of evidence for especially for World War II. I mean, we have the Nazi war records. We have records from every other nation involved in that conflict. We even have the battlefields. Auschwitz is still is a museum now. We even have World War II production era, tanks, weapons, um, and mounds upon mounds of other evidence.
May I interject a comment in here, Ken
Sure,
Jones?
sure.
Okay, let me ask. I don't ever remember people's names unless I've met them more than 3 times. Let me ask you, what makes them records any different than the records of Jesus being alive?
Well, it's a preponderance. It's a massive amount of records.
There's a
If,
massive amount of records to prove that Jesus existed
and
more
there's
than there is about
also
World War II.
and there's also a bunch of evidence to support those
And
records
there's a
too.
bunch of evidence to support the records of Jesus existing too.
What records of Jesus and what evidence of
I
Jesus do you
think
have?
Mr. Ken Jones has just provided evidence.
Yeah, he provided one historian or one
Oh,
researcher.
I'm
Well,
pretty sure.
there's also the what is it? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 or 9 writers of the New Testament. As I said before, the Bible is not a book, but it's a set of books, and those people were contemporaries of Jesus Christ.
But were they alive or when he was were they alive when Jesus was alive?
Yes,
Which ones?
pertaining to the writers of the New Testament, all of
No, I'm
them,
asking you which writers of the New Testaments were alive.
all of them,
So all of them.
all of them.
Let me ask
And
the
so you
question.
can find evidence for the New Testament around when Jesus Christ was alive.
Let me ask this question. In the regards of, do you know how many disciples Jesus had?
I believe he had 12 or 13. I think like the 13th one
12.
was Jonas.
No, he had 12. Now, with that being said, all of them were alive in Jesus' era, okay? So they were all eyewitnesses, and they all wrote something down. It's just whether or not we found what they wrote down or not. So when you are trying to say evidence to prove that Jesus existed, there was at least 8 or 9, according to Mr. Jones's resources, that proves in which Jesus existed. So can you please explain to me how his evidence in supporting Jesus being a real person and Jesus really existing matches up to the World War existing? Because you're trying to say that Jesus didn't exist or Jesus could not have
I
existed.
didn't say that Jesus didn't exist. I'm just skeptical.
So therefore you believe it could be possible in which there would be somebody by the name of Jesus that was the Son of God that existed.
I would believe that there was a individual named Jesus Christ that believed he was the Son of God during Roman times.
So was that a yes answer or was that a no answer?
It was my nuanced answer.
Can you answer it with a yes or no?
Well, to your exact question, and no.
And may I ask a critical of why you cannot answer my question with a yes or no without giving me a nuanced answer?
Because if I tell you a no answer, that tells you nothing. I have to explain my answer.
No, because if you say no, I already know where I would go with that. But if you say yes, I already know where I would go with that. You forget this is not my first rodeo. Now, you still haven't explained how the records of Jesus existing is it could, let me put that away, could be wrong, whereas the records of World War II are more accurate than Jesus living.
No, I said I'm just skeptical of whether or not Jesus Christ existed. I believe it is possible for an individual named Jesus Christ that believed he was the Son of God. I believe that is possible.
I believe it's possible, but do you believe that there, how would I word it? Do you believe that it existed in a, do you believe it may have existed some time ago? Not possible, but do you believe it did exist?
What did exist?
Jesus.
I believe it is possible.
Without using the word possible, okay? Are you reading what Ken Jones has posted up?
What's going on, Ken? Hey,
Okay,
G-Man
right?
sent me the link.
It's too blurry for me to read.
It
Sorry, I have bad
says,
eyesight.
Ken Jones, do you want me to read that or do you want to read it?
You can read it, admin.
It says, if I'm not mistaken, because the first word is a little hazy, but let's see here. Kronos was Rome. I can't read that word because it's too hazy. Writing early in the 2nd century AD, 112 AD. I can't read that because it's hazy.
You want me to read it?
There's certain words in there that are hazy, so I can't quite read them.
Wait a minute,
Okay.
112 AD, so a full century after Jesus Christ.
Hey, it looks like you actually know how to read it.
Well,
As
I can
in-
see 112
Yeah,
AD.
well, so can I.
Well,
I'll let Ken Jones
it
do it.
would be roughly around 80 years after the death of Jesus Christ. Although I don't know at this point how old Tacitus
actually know how to blow it
himself
up.
is.
You actually knew how to blow it up that time. Okay,
Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it now that you know how to blow it up?
Okay.
Do you want me, or do you want to?
You can read it. If you can see it, you can read it.
Okay, it says, if I'm not mistaken, Titus was a Roman historian writing early in the 2nd century AD 112 or 112 AD. His historians provided us with single references to Jesus and wait, doesn't say and I'm too busy thinking of other things. In reference to Jesus of considerable value. In the following is a full quote. The revealed can't see that word. I can't quite pronounce that word because
Considerable
I can't tell if
value.
that's a O or it's a C.
Here.
I can't see your mouse.
Oh, the considerable value. The following is a full quote of the relevant site from Annals 1544. Jesus and the Christians are mentioned in an account of how the Emperor Nero went after Christians in order to draw attention away from himself after Rome's fire of 64 AD. But
Okay.
not. Oh.
Go ahead. I was just trying to make sure you were going to the actual quote because this is what the actual quote says. Go ahead.
But not all the relief that could come from man, not all the bounties that the prince could bestow, nor all the atonements which could be presented to the gods, availed to relieve Nero from the infamy of being believed to have ordered the conflagration, the fire of Rome. Hence, to suppress the rumor, he falsely charged with the guilt and punished Christians who were hated for their enormities. Christus, the founder of the name, was put to death by Pontius Pilate, procurator of Judea in the reign of Tiberius, but the pernicious superstition, repressed for a time, broke out again, not only through Judea, where the mischief originated, but through the city of Rome also, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty. Then, upon their information, an immense multitude was convicted, not so much of the crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. Wow. Even back then, Christian. Well, let's go right here. It says that Christians were hated for their enormities. Christus, the founder of the name, was put to death by Pontius Pilate, procurator of Judea in the reign of Tiberius. Who does the scripture say ordered Jesus to be put to death ultimately? Pontius Pilate. Christus from Christ.
Now, may I?
And he states this. One minute, admin. Tacitus, in this moment, states this as a matter of fact, as if it's commonly known. He doesn't state that Christus or Christus was put to death as something disputed, but he states it here plainly as a matter of fact. Like this is something that is commonly known. And this is back even at 112 AD. So he would be regarded as a secular source close to the time of Jesus' life and death. Go ahead, Admin.
May I make a statement here? If you remember correctly, in the scripture, when Jesus came before Pontius Pilate, what did Pontius Pilate do? If you remember correctly, he looked upon Jesus and he asked for a veil of water, and he washed his hands after the crowd chose Jesus instead of Barnabas. and he said, "What you're going to do is not upon my hands." Do you know why? Because he already had the understanding of that the person in which he was about to sentence to death, if not dead already, was the true Son of God, but he had to step back because he already knew what was happening.
Well, I would say if this quote was accurate and true, I would say that would support the idea that a Christus did exist, and he was at least a small or a large cult leader, and he was put to death by Pontius Pilate.
And not only does it
That
say
does not
that, but
prove that he was the Son of God.
and then let you know that we're talking about the Jesus Christ. It says Christians who were hated for their enormities, and then it goes on to say Christ is the founder of the name. What name? Christians. So it's tying in Christians in this Christus or Christus. They're saying that Christus or Christus was the founder of that group of people called Christians that were so hated in this text. And that leader of theirs, Christus or Christus, was put to death by Pontius Pilate. Now, a cult leader, he claimed that he was the Son of God. Okay.
Who claimed he was the Son of God?
He did. Isn't that the claim that you were making, that he was maybe a cult leader, but you don't believe that he was the Son of God? It's just that he said that he was the Son of God.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Do you understand why he was brought before Pontius Pilate?
I think it was the Pharisees.
I got the answer.
Go ahead, go ahead, Admin.
That's the simplest question. Because if you remember correctly, Judas was the one that came to the high priest and said that he would turn Jesus in for claiming to be the Son of God. And they said they would pay him to do so, and he said, "You will know him by when I kiss him on his cheek." If I'm not mistaken, it was his right cheek. So what happened? The guards were following him the one evening, and he kissed Jesus on the cheek, and the guard reached out and grabbed Jesus, and Peter sliced his ear off, as in the guard's ear off. Jesus said to Peter, "Throw down thy sword." He threw down his sword, and Jesus took the, this is all literal timing too, according to what the Bible says. Jesus reached down, grabbed a piece of dirt, and put it up to his ear, and his ear was healed. Then they took Jesus. Then he stood before Pontius Pilate, and he said, "I claim to be the King of the Jews." Am I correct?
Well, I believe they said, or Pilate asked them or said that they say you have claimed that to be the king of the Jews, which there would have been an offense to Caesar, since Caesar was reigning over oppressed Israel as the emperor, which would mandate that they only have one king. So to say one was the king of the Jews would have been them saying that Jesus was making himself an opposer or a challenger to Caesar. Also, the same thing can be said for the challenge of him referring to himself as the Son of God. The Caesars were known notoriously for proclaiming themselves to be the Son of God. So that title again would have also been taken from a Roman standpoint as a challenge to Caesar. From the Hebrew standpoint, the Israelite standpoint, they had a problem with that, whereas they thought similar to the Muslims that God had no begotten son, like in the sense of an individual coming through the womb of a woman. However, they also thought that nationally, Israel as a nation was God's son, as God refers to them as his son in parts of the Old Testament. So for Jesus to say that God was his father would have been to the nation as him putting himself not just equal with God, but above the entire nation of Israel, of which he was a part, and that is ultimately what they accused him of blaspheming about, which led to them trying him before the Sanhedrin and moving him off to Pilate because they wanted Jesus put to death because he said such a thing. And they believed that such claims would also rise up. He would accumulate a following, and that would bring Roman military might against him to quell any thought of insurrection, which they had supposed that this Christ might be working toward, which was not actually the case. So that's why he was brought before Pilate, because being an oppressed nation, the Israelites didn't have the authority in that estate to execute the death penalty or to perform the death penalty. They had to get Roman authority in order to do that. So that's why he was first brought before Pilate.
But how does that prove he's the son of? How does that prove he's the son of God?
Well, your initial claim had nothing to do with whether he was the Son of God. That was your secondary claim. We got onto this when you said that there were no secular sources supporting the notion of this Jesus, and I've just shown you this is one. This one shows a link between that Jesus and the Christians that Christ is Tacitus mentions and the Christians who follow him. Part of that Christian body or group are those writers of the New Testament who were eyewitnesses.
I guess I was wrong on that one statement, but you still haven't proven to me if he's the Son of God.
Well, those Christians, part of those Christians whom Tacitus mentions would be the writers of the New Testament. Many of them were all alive in the day of Jesus, and many of them were eyewitnesses directly to his earthly ministry, and they saw firsthand the miracles he did. So until you can go back in time and show me, or rather go there and prove that it didn't happen, or you can produce a challenge of other people who were in the exact space and time where the miracles were claimed to happen, saying that they did not happen, I think that falsifies your claim.
So I can come up with a better explanation of why these writers of the Bible made such fantastic claims. They were either lying, or they were under the influence of some. What's that? Oh. Or they were under the influence of some drugs, or they were just insane. All of them far more likely than Jesus being the Son of God.
Mr. Ken Jones, did you mean to present him?
Yes, I did. I know some people get aggravated when you just leave the camera on the screen share, so I wanted to move it around a bit.
I could have easily just took it off of presenting you to where anybody that was speaking it would go to.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Okay, so whoever's speaking it'll go to. So that means if it's you, it'll go to you. If it's him, it'll go to him. Likewise to everybody.
Speaking of which, how did you do that, admin? How do you do that?
Well, if you click the down arrow and you click the present to everybody like you did, to a single person like him, it would only present him. If you click the stop presenting on the where you clicked start presenting to everybody,
okay,
it will do that.
Okay, got you.
It's all pretty easy once you figure it out. I've been moderating rooms for over a year. G-Man, I've moderated several of his hangouts before. I moderate all but all of my dad's hangouts, so
Okay, cool. So now let me ask a question. Uh,
to me or him.
uh, to uh, to Callahan. Uh, if you were the victim of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme, or even one of his associates who was found to be associated with him, would you spend the rest of your life, now that Madoff has been convicted and put away, would you spend the rest of your life dedicated to exalting his name?
I'd be more worried about rebuilding my savings, because obviously I would have lost, quite a sum of money.
Yeah, so I take it you wouldn't be trying to advance the fame of Bernie Madoff. If
But
okay,
Bernie
now,
Madoff is a convicted criminal, and he's done with.
well,
He
I
has
want
no
you to
more.
I want you to understand that about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, from a secular standpoint, or from a non-Christian standpoint, died as a convicted criminal. So if he had not risen from the grave, his followers would not be advancing his name. Let me paint a picture
Can
for
you prove that he rose from the grave?
let me well, I'm using it, or I'm getting to that through analogy and reasoning.
By the
These,
way, we have to. Okay.
these people.
We're gonna have to make this a little bit quick because I have to get going pretty soon.
Okay, well, it's 10:54 now. Try to end by 11.
I have to be gone by like 10:30.
Oh, okay, so you're running behind. Okay, let me just get this out then. Okay, do you think it's reasonable to believe uh, that these people who were followers of Jesus Christ would be saying that he rose from the dead if he didn't? And here's what I want you to think about as you try to answer this question. I gave the example of made up people victimized by Madoff's Ponzi scheme. These are people who, many of whom left their spouses, their parents, and their children. They abandoned their lives to walk around the Israelite countryside and follow this man with their whole lives invested for the better part of 3 years. And now this man, if he did not rise from the dead, is dead. This man would have been the greatest charlatan of all time, and you would have made yourself a royal fool for following him. A public disgrace, a national disgrace. Do you think it's reasonable to believe that those people who would, normal life tells us and normal human behavior tells us, would then be reduced to shame if he did not rise from the dead, and disgraced and wanting to cower and hide from society,
Well, they could
would
believe.
spend the rest of their life not only exalting his name, but putting their lives on the line for him under the threat of persecution?
Well, they could believe in in this man so much, so great that they'll just invent that he rose from the grave.
I don't believe it.
It's
I
quite.
don't.
It's
I
quite.
don't. I don't believe that it's reasonable to get thousands of people.
Well, you don't have to get thousands of people to believe that. You just have to get. You just gotta have to get a few key people who claim that they saw him, and then they just spread their message. And you can get thousands of people easily.
I think that's unreasonable belief.
It is perfectly reasonable.
And I'm just gonna speak as myself as a human being right now. If I was fool enough to follow somebody that played me for a sucker like that, and I left my family, my spouse, and my children, my job, my source of income to follow him, and he died and stayed in that grave, I would despise that person. I would be ashamed of myself, but their name, that person who deceived me, I would spit on their grave. I would hate them. I would curse their name in secret and in public. And I believe that that's normal human behavior. And I think back to a conversation between Bart Ehrman and him and William Lane Craig when they were debating the reasonability of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. One of the alternative sequences or possibilities that Ehrman suggested for the possibility of the empty tomb is that some of Jesus's followers came and took the body. If they had did that to me, lied about rising from the dead, and I invested my whole life in following them, I would dare somebody to move that body. If they did, I would burn the body up, and them that tried to take it.
Hey Ken,
Out
have
of
you ever heard
vengeance.
of the quote by Mark Twain that it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled?
No, I haven't Well, I didn't know it was by Mark Twain.
Well, he has a lot of really good quotes that you should listen to.
But let me ask you, is that consistent with regular human behavior?
I believe it is. I mean, some people can be so invested in a lie that they just have to believe. Like there's this guy who spent it was during one of the world's gonna end things in 2011. This guy spent his entire life savings in making billboards, raising awareness, advertising that this world-ending event was going to happen on this day in 2011.
And it didn't happen.
2016.
And it didn't happen.
Exactly. So this guy.
And you know what happened to the guy who told them that?
And what happened?
He's now dead. They're alive and broke. And all this is while the scripture clearly says that no man, not even the Son, that being not even Jesus himself, knows the day or the hour when his return is, but the Father, God the Father, sets those dates by his own authority. So then how can a man know?
But isn't Jesus God?
Jesus is God, but Jesus is God, but there's a distinction between the Father and the Son. One true living God who is everywhere manifests himself in more than one form at the same time, which he can do because he's already everywhere.
So you're saying God has multiple personality disorder?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Go ahead, Admin.
If you tarry this conversation, you're aware you're going to be going on for a long time, and I already know where this is going.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock. Drag came in, so I want to give him a chance to say something before I end the broadcast.
Oh, no. Hey, you want to continue this discussion tomorrow or something like that? Because it's kind of fun.
I don't know if I can do it tomorrow. We might be able to try for Sunday. But, I
will not be available Sunday.
Admin, you gotta give me your contact information so I can reach you and employ your services in the future, if you don't mind.
I don't mind modding rooms. It's just whenever I'm actually available is the thing.
Okay, is there general availability that you have, or is it like day to day?
Well, that's more of a day-to-day schedule when I know I'm actually available. But I can try to schedule, but that doesn't mean anything until that day I'll know.
Got you.
But if you need to get a hold of me, you can contact G-Man, and G-Man can either contact my dad or directly to me.
Okay. Well, is your name administrator on, because I'd like to add you to my circles if you aren't already in them.
It's called Administration, the Teachers Forum.
Administration, the Teachers Forum. Okay. Okay, and in fact...
You know me best by G-Man. That's the only reason why you actually know me.
Yeah.
I've known G-Man for over a year.
Yeah, I've heard them. I've heard them talk about you before, but I think
Oh boy,
this
what
is
did they
Alpha.
say so bad about me this time?
Everything was good. Everything was
Oh,
good.
Yeah, no
man.
offense to you, admin, but I wish I never met you.
Well, no offense to you, but praise the Lord we actually met.
Hey, it's nice to see Drag smile for once. Nah.
I smile all the time. I'm just behind the avatar. I'm laughing throughout most of these conversations.
Hey, Drag, when are you and I gonna have our one-on-one hangout? That's what everybody's been waiting for.
That's what people have been waiting on. Well, we'll have to schedule something. I get off at 6 p.m. on weekends, so I don't have anything planned this weekend. So if you are free, I guess on Sunday, after I get off work, we can have a discussion.
Hey, Drag,
Okay.
did you see the earlier portion of this hangout?
Yeah, I was as you all were talking, I was looking through it and I was listening to it with my mic muted, and I thought I heard
I'm talking about when Nadia was still here and
and G-Man was talking to Nadia and the others. Yeah, oh no, I heard enough of it. Let's say that. So I'm glad I wasn't here for that.
Hold on 1 minute, guys. Let me close the broadcast with my closing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in these, I guess, 3.5 hours. And those of you who are watching this back on playback. The beginning part of the title of this was, Oh, How Humanity Needs Jesus. And I believe that's where it all comes back to. I invited unbelievers into my room tonight to speak about their grievances on why they think the God of the Bible, the biblical God, is a prick. And I called them out on some of their accusations as being using of similar ideologies and philosophies that they accuse the biblical God of using. I think that I accomplished that to a decent end tonight. Maybe not the whole extent that I intended, but a decent end. But people can believe what they want. Theists can say what they want. Non-theists, unbelievers, atheists can say what they want. All of these are man's opinions. But I posit still that there is one true living God who makes himself known to every human being before it makes himself known consciously and sensitively to every human being at some point in their life before their death. And to that God we are going to give an account. That, as so disclosed to me, that true and living God has placed his Son, Jesus Christ, to be an atonement offering for our sins against him. He says that we have all sinned against God and come short of his glory. And the penalty of our sin, God says, all souls belong to him, and the soul that sins shall die. That be both dying in the body, the loss of animation of the body, and returning to the dust of the earth, and also death, death even in soul, which culminates ultimately in a everlasting torment in the lake of fire. The same God who commissioned such punishment and severity is the same God who saw human beings and sees human beings in that helpless state, entrapped by their own sin, enslaved by their own sin, sin which disqualifies them from entering the kingdom of heaven and makes them unrighteous. That same God, because he said that he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather is pleased when the wicked turn from their wicked ways and live, sent his Son into the world to live in a body of flesh and blood, human flesh and blood, that he might die to make atonement through his life's blood. His sinless life was in that blood. For God said to Moses, the life of the flesh is in the blood, the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it upon the altar to be atonement for the soul. It is the blood which makes atonement for the soul. God wants man to have atonement. God wants man to be reconciled to him. But what separates between man and God, what causes man to go into damnation or fire, is man's sin against God. One cannot expect God, who created his creation for his purpose, to the praise of his glory, to serve his purpose, to hand over his reigns as God to the authority of his creation, which is what we are asking when we are presuming to believe or suggest that God should let man do as they please. No, there is only going to be one God, and that is God. I hope you receive his offer of salvation, because God really does not desire you to go into damnation. He wants you to have salvation and reconciliation with him, everlasting life and peace. But you cannot do that. You cannot receive these things with God. You cannot be in peace with God while trying to be the substitute God to your own selves. Thank you, and good night.